And being 6:15, I call to order the City of Glenwood Springs City Council meeting. It is our regular meeting tonight. It is September 4th, 2025. Good evening, everyone. And with that, we will take roll call.
That's you. Roll call.
Mayor Dame,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, Councilor Townsley, Councilor Schmall, Councilor Weimer, Councilor Schachter, Councilor Smith. We have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Item 2 on the agenda are agenda changes and conflicts for tonight's meeting. Anybody have a change to propose or a conflict to disclose? Please let me know. We'll see none. We'll move on. Council announcements. Any announcements tonight? We'll start with Councilor Smith.
Just hours away is the 70th annual Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast, which is a pretty cool event to talk about anytime I get the chance to do so. It's relevant to announce in this venue in that this year's event is funded in part through City Council approved funding that was recommended by the Financial Advisory Board, specifically to purchase durable serving materials to reduce the trash coming out of this thing. The event is coming very close to being a zero waste event in consistency with the climate action plan. So it's going to be a responsible event as well as all you can stand to eat. So show up Saturday, 8 to 11 under the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zelinski.
At the end of the month, near the end of the month, on the 27th of September, there will be the Aviation Expo out at the KGWS Airport, and it's going to be a great community family event, and I'm hoping that everybody shows up.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other announcements? We'll see none. We'll move into item 5, which are citizens appearing before council for items that are not on the agenda. Anybody here? Please come forward, state your name and whether you live in city limits.
I'm John Banks and I live at 1015 Park West in the city.
Thank you. Just so you know, you got 3 minutes.
I'd like to speak about Planning and Zoning's recommendation to rezone the Glenwood Springs Mall to mixed use. I came tonight because I probably won't be in town when it comes before you. The future of the mall is very important to Glenwood Springs. I think everyone would like to see the mall be a thriving and vibrant place. And many people are concerned about what happens in West Glenwood, as we well know. So there's a need for a lot of public awareness and input, but at this point, I think very few people are aware of the proposal and its possible consequences. I urge you to publicize the issue, to move slowly and carefully on this decision, and to get plenty of feedback from citizens across the city. The applicant has not yet justified the rezoning. They have not said what it is they want to do that they can't do with their current zoning. I hope you will assure them that the city would look favorably on any revitalization proposals and is excited about helping them move forward if the plan is good for the city as a whole. But the current proposal is a blank check. It's rezoning to M1. It increases the value of the property, but has no obvious benefit to the people of Glenwood Springs. Mixed-use zoning allows so many uses by right. We could get almost anything except a junkyard or a crematorium. I doubt if many people in Glenwood Springs would be happy if it led to more apartment blocks. Renters and owners in our city are about 50-50 right now, and this affects our sense of community and our small town character. We have neglected owner-occupied housing. Big apartment buildings are not the solution to Glenwood's problems. If they were, all our problems would have been solved by now. If future development applications for the mall didn't require variances, then the city would have no input on what happens with the property. So no opportunity to make sure the development is a positive for our quality of life. So let's table this approval. It's premature. Let the applicant justify his request and explain what he intends to do that he can't do now. Then let's publicize the issue and listen to the community's thoughts. And let's assure the applicant that we would look favorably on any revitalization proposal that improves our quality of life and benefits the city as a whole. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else here that would like to come forward for items not on the agenda? See none, we'll close the public portion for tonight. Do we have any response to Mr. Banks?
I'm actually going to ask that you don't, because this is a pending land use matter and you're going to hear it as a quasi judicial hearing in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, okay.
I would ask that you not.
My question just in that regard, so.
Okay.
Thank you very much. But we will make sure that that testimony is included in the packet for the public.
What we just heard tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for pointing that out, Bill. Okay, with that, we move into item 6 on the agenda. It's our consent agenda, and I'm entertaining a motion. We're going in with Councilor Zelinski.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
We have a motion to approve. Looking for a second. Councilor Weimer.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? We'll see none. Thank you very much. Next is a proclamation for the city of Glenwood Springs 140th anniversary or birthday, if you will. And before I read the proclamation, I have a couple of interesting historic notes that I think you might want to hear. It looks like the vote to incorporate Glenwood Springs was passed on August 22nd, 1885. It was published in the newspaper on August 28th, 1885. And there was some sort of a court case that actually happened on September 4th, 1885. We don't know exactly what it is, but something happened. And what got my interest here is the first Board of Trustee meeting for the city of Glenwood Springs was held on October 5, 1885. So that was 140 years ago. And with that, I want to wish Glenwood a very happy birthday, 140th. And for the proclamation, I'm going to ask Ryan, our city clerk, to come forward. We're going to read it and then pass it to him since he is the official keeper of the records for the city of Glenwood Springs. So, hope this works. Proclamation celebrating the 140th anniversary of Glenwood Springs. Whereas Glenwood Springs, Colorado was officially incorporated in 1885 and has since grown into a vibrant and diverse community known for its natural beauty, rich history, and welcoming spirit. Whereas the residents of Glenwood Springs have demonstrated resilience, innovation, and a strong sense of community, working together to preserve the city's heritage and character while embracing progress and development. Whereas Glenwood Springs is renowned for its stunning hot springs, scenic landscape, and outdoor recreational opportunities, attracting visitors from around the world and contributing to the city's economic vitality. Whereas the city has made significant contributions to the cultural, educational, and economic fabric of the region, fostering a high quality of life for its residents and future generations. Whereas the 140th anniversary of Glenwood Springs provides an opportunity to reflect on the city's past achievements, celebrate its present successes, and look forward to the bright and prosperous future. Therefore, be it resolved, I, Marco Day, Mayor of Glenwood Springs, in the state of Colorado, do hereby proclaim September 4th, 2025 as a day of celebration in honor of the 140th anniversary of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and encourage all residents and visitors to join in commemorating this historic milestone. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Glenwood Springs, Colorado to be affixed this 4th day of September in the year of 2025. Happy birthday, city.
Thank you, city.
Thanks, Brian, for being here. There you go, in the archives.
All right, it's going in the archives.
Hey, that was on the lighter side.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's nice to have something light before everything.
Yeah, very nice. Happy birthday. Our next item, item 8, communication and engagement update. Brianna Starbuck, please.
Brian, remote, left turns up, be great.
You're usually the one showing everybody.
Even I, council, have tech issues. All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Brianna Starbuck. I'm your humble communications and engagement officer. And wanting to give you just a periodic update on our communications and engagement here across the city. Before I dive in too deep, I just wanted to quickly touch on why it is that communications and engagement, why we care about it, why it's important to us. And I think everyone in this room appreciates a responsive and effective city government. And the more effectively we communicate, the more consistently we communicate, timely, clear, and accurate information out to our residents. We build those audiences, let them know that they can expect good, clear information from us. It improves our community discourse, and that feedback ultimately informs the decisions that are made in this room. And then hopefully we take those and do good government, and then that gets shared out again. And this is sort of the opposite of a vicious cycle and is a virtuous cycle that compounds on itself and helps lend itself to more transparency in our local government, builds community trust, participation, collaboration with one another, and good decision making. With that, this is why we have 4 core communication strategies, and it is building our engaged audiences, making sure that folks know that they can get good information, where they can get good information, and have them stay checked in with us, meeting people where they're at, which means instead of just being like, if you want it, you can come get it, although you can, going places. So that includes things like pop-up events and going to football games and connecting with people with already established audiences, things like connecting with trusted voices. So whether that's connecting with Ray Alexander on Roaring Fork Road and Weather, or other community leaders, getting connected with people that our community members trust to get our messages out there, and then making it accessible. So that means that if it is a digitally accessible document, regardless of someone with disabilities, or if it is making things more accessible for language, making it accessible in person or online, making it accessible means people can get to the information. A big part of our communications program over the last year is we have brought on a communications and engagement consultant, Slate Communications, who has been a tremendous partner for our communications and engagement program. At the top, they have really helped improve the collaboration just internally of our communications team. Instead of things ruminating in my mind, I now have someone who has expertise across not only Colorado, but across the nation, specializing in government communications, so that we know sort of what best practices are out there, how are other communities approaching the big hairy topics. And so that has been absolutely tremendous. Project management. So when there are things that I just can't wrap my hands around because I've got them full on other things, having someone that can help take on those projects. And of course, some of those skills that we just don't have on this team. So graphic design and videography have been huge. A few things over on the side of the screen, you can see screenshots of, things that have been pushed out over this year. And this, of course, is not everything, but it illustrates things like the editorial and the council recap, designing a cute scrappy bear for our pay as you throw campaign, making our budget more beautiful and accessible for people to understand. All of these things have been able to move forward with the help of Slate, who have really expanded our capacity and efficacy across our communications programs. And then along with all of the big projects that we touch, of course, everything from communication or from construction to emergencies, public engagement processes, there are also big communications projects happening behind the scenes to enable that work. A huge thing that we've worked over the last year is internal communications. Of course, the more effective that we are as within our team, the more effective we can be as our city leaders for our residents. And so those have come out at things like bi-weekly council and staff updates so that everyone's on the same page of what is on our radar. Quarterly staff virtual calls, that is an opportunity for us to provide information to our internal staff and offer an opportunity for everybody to ask questions so that we're all working from the same place. In-person quarterly gatherings, it is important that, I mean, you've got a little picture here of our most recent community or team barbecue, and it was truly amazing to be in that room and making connections with our fellow coworkers and just being like, oh, hey, we're on the same team. It was awesome. I am also going to shout out the Chapman Caring Workplace training that we have been doing, which is all about how do we more effectively communicate so that not only improves our interpersonal communication, how do we listen better, how do we serve better, but it also will help us as we interact with our residents. So how can we make sure that we are having the highest and best dialogue with our residents? And I believe that Council Schachter and Councilor Zielinski both attended that training, so they could maybe share their experiences with you as well. And then the last big thing on internal communications has been expanding our ViewWorks program, which is how we track citizen concerns and make sure that they get addressed. As this not only pairs a way for us to make sure that we close the loop with our residents, but it also provides us with information, metrics and analytics so we know how we're doing, where are our areas to improve. So that has been a huge effort over the last year. Of course, there are lots of other communications projects. I've spoken to members of the board before about digital accessibility, and not only is it important to make sure that all of our communications are accessible to everyone, regardless of disability, we also have to do it. And so we continue to make progress on that. We've recently rolled out what I think was the last big piece of our digital accessibility plan, which was making our PDFs accessible on both cogs.us and Glenwood Rec. So now if you go to our website, there's a hot new tool that basically uses technology to transfer everything into plain text readable. So if someone's using a screen reader, they're able to access our PDFs with some nuances there, of course. We are working to unify our email and text messaging system. So rather than having a bunch of things coming from a bunch of places, let's put it all in one place and make it easier for things to get out the door. For Parks and Recreation, we are working to put together a marketing plan and procedures, which will help us not only get the information out about the fun things like here are events at the community center, here's what's happening at the art center, but also some of that community education pieces that we've been wanting to work on. So dog waste, trail etiquette, tree care, things that are maybe less fun, but are really important to get that education out to our residents. And the last big project is later this year in October, we can expect our next round of our community survey. We'll actually be utilizing the National Community Survey offered through Polco, which will give us benchmarks to be able to gauge how our residents are feeling about city services. And again, just how are we doing? And we'll be able to compare that against national benchmarks, which will hopefully give not only staff, but council some helpful insights into how our community feels about our city government. My last ask for you guys before I turn it over for question is the biggest way that you can help me, anyone out there listening to this stream, is to get connected. So we have a city news and alerts list where if you're on that list, you maybe got a cone zone from me today about some of the construction happening. When we have public outreach opportunity or public input opportunities, council recaps, news releases, emergency alerts, please do make sure that you're signed up for those lists. If you're not sure if you are and you want to check in, give me a holler and I'm happy to help out. And then also for anyone listening out there, your city council, the folks I'm talking to right now, email them, reach out. Part of their job is listening. And I think that you, council, appreciate when our residents reach out. And so you can do that anytime at citycouncil@cogs.us. all of these things and more. There's truly a million apps out there you can find on our website at cogs.us/connect. And that was my best shot at pulling everything together in a very short update for you all. Your turn.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Bree. That
Council.
was awesome. Thank you so much for the update. Back to council. Any questions to Brianna? We'll start with Councilor Zelinski.
I just wanted to go back to, and I've already forgotten what ViewWorks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know that enough people know like what that is and where, like, I think there is such an incredible mechanism for the community. It's where you can report a concern. It's where you can, like, so if you're out and about and you see something, you don't have to like remember to go home and make a phone call, or you can do it from your phone. You can go right to the city website. There's a whole, it's all categorized. It's super fast and easy. And so I think that that's going to be a great resource for just like feedback, engagement, and usefulness. So I want to make sure that, you know, everybody in the community is really aware of that.
And it is available right on the homepage of our website, as Councilor Zelinski has pointed out. And I will say that people use it. So
Yeah.
people definitely know that it's there, but would encourage people to be able to submit reports. I will also add that on that first screen, so it's a button you can find right on our homepage. It says report a concern. Click on that, it'll take you right to the portal. You can also include photos. So if you're like, here's some graffiti, or like this fence, it can sometimes help us find exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about. So you can include pictures, and all of that is tracked and then managed. And then this is how we can coordinate with our various field crews to issue work orders.
And there's also like a standard of response that the city has set too. So you are guaranteed, if you use that, you will get some sort of resolution, whether it's just like, can't do anything about it, or we can do something about it, and here's what we can do, correct?
Yeah, you should get an automatic reply that says that we've got it and we're working on it. And then within 48 hours, you should hear from one of our staffers, either by phone call or response in there with an update and sort of a plan.
Perfect. So even if you don't have a concern today, you should go check it out and see all the different categories and the things that, you know, it's like very streamlined and user friendly. And so I think it's a great resource for community feedback.
Thank you, Councilor Schmall.
Thanks, Brianna. That's a great presentation. Can you tell me when it was last updated?
The presentation or the PowerPoint? Or?
Well, the strategic plan, the strategic communication plan.
Absolutely. So it was actually adopted for the first time ever at the end of last year. So it is a very recent plan. But as part of that plan, and I will say I've got a printed copy on my desk. So it's definitely not something that's sitting on the shelf. I use it pretty much every week to check in of what we're looking at. But we do update it regularly. The action plan items at the end of the plan are due to be updated this year, and we're working on updating that in tandem with the Parks and Recreation plan.
So that was part of what was going to be my next question. You had the high priority, and there were 18 items in that high priority list, and I could tell that some of them were done.
Yes.
Is more than some, or do you have a number of?
I don't have, without looking at the plan right in front of me, I know that some of the things have been crossed off, but not everything.
Thank you. And there was also some data in there that seemed on page 5. It listed the information about Glenwood said there were 3,900 households, 4,295 housing units, which I'm not understanding.
Absolutely.
I thought we were short of housing, and it sounds like we've got 300 more housing units than we have households.
And so I believe your Councilor Schmall is referring to the strategic communications plan itself on demographics. And we'll say that those are figures that were pulled from the census, the latest figures available as of last year. So I can't speak to how that fits in with housing, but that would be included in a separate housing report. I believe that the shortfall you're referring to is in the regional housing report, which is a separate report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? No? Just a quick one. We didn't do any council tents during the market or coffee with council. Has that not been very effective or?
We didn't do any during downtown market, and I think that's because we found that it's mostly visitors that attend the
Okay.
market. We did have a lovely booth at Strawberry Days, and then Councilor Zelinski joined me at the recent volunteer fair. We spoke to a lot of people, and our focus at that event was mostly on encouraging folks to volunteer for boards and commissions. And so we got a lot of folks
Okay,
that we were able to speak to there, which was lovely.
excellent. Thank you.
But of course, I would say if you guys are like, hey, we want to be there, like staff is happy to make that happen.
Okay, sounds good. Excellent. Thank you, Bree.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public, any comments on the communication and engagement update? See none? We'll move. Oh, thank you. Anybody online? No? Also no? Good. We'll move on. Number 9, project update.
We're going to hear from Public Works Director Matt Langhorst tonight. Normally, we would hear from Ryan Gordon, our city engineer. However, Ryan Gordon, our city engineer, is sitting on an airplane right now, and the airplane doesn't have an engine that works. So when you don't have an engine that works, you have a tendency to not want to get up in the air. So that might take a while.
Thankfully, the airplane is on the ground.
We have a fleet department. I'm not sure they're that good. I'll make this really quick. Brian kind of sent me the list. I'll do the list. Just quick updates. Good evening, council. Quick updates. 6th Street work is on hold until the light poles show up. You've seen that most of the work is done. The landscaping is done. We've added some concrete here and there. Most of that work is completed. The poles should be showing up. I'm going to get this wrong. October. They were ordered special order, but when they get here, we'll finish the 6th Street portion of that project. North Landing construction will ramp back up next week. You'll notice it hasn't been anything happening in the last couple of weeks. The shade sail installation is supposed to happen next week. Then Gould can get back in and finish the rest of the concrete pours they have and the bathroom foundation, landscaping, that kind of stuff. So we're basically waiting for the shade sail subcontractor to come in and do their work. Blake Phase 2. You probably saw the first lift of asphalt went on 23rd Street the other day. They have a little curb and gutter work to do on 23rd still. They just overpaved. We'll cut it back. And then Gould will move into finishing up the rest of the curb and gutter and the sidewalks on the project. And they're basically stripping Blake Avenue between 21st and 23rd Street down and building it back up with the proper base course. So it's ready to pave. We have pave dates of September 15th, 16th, and 17th. So we should be able to hit 2 of those days. I think they only need 2 days to complete the project. So after that, it'll just be cleanup and we'll be out of everybody's way. Wave Park. We haven't talked about this in a while. Wave Park pedestrian crossing. We approved that at the beginning of the year. We wanted to wait till the end of the year to do the project. It worked with the low bidder that we chose. That actually should be starting the first week of October. It won't take them very long, probably a week or 2 worth of project. And we're holding pre-construction meeting next week. And then a quick update on design projects, just so you're in the know. The 6 and 4 pathway, water, storm, sewer, electric project that we talked about earlier is in CDOT's review right now. It is funded through a state project or a state grant. So it has to go through the CDOT process, even though we now own the road. Coach Miller plans will be at 100% next week. I might cause a glitch in that because they sent him a couple mods today. But that should be done in the next couple of weeks, and we should be able to bid that out at the end of the year. Blake Phase 3 plans are coming. We need to we're estimating how much we can do for Blake next year. Like 6 and 24 and Coach Miller have to go the way that we've laid them out. And then whatever money is left over after those bid processes, we'll hit Blake up and do as much as possible. Wolfson Midland roundabouts at about 50% right now. Costs are looking really good. Significantly better than I thought. We've gone through it and they are right on line item costs. So that is actually looking fairly decent. We're going to start meeting, thanks to Bree, the entities around the roundabout, the Midland Center, RAFTA, those kinds of things. Last one is the surveys that we've done. The Cowden survey over for this area all the way to 7th in Colorado is done. And I believe Ashley will be working on that next week or the week after. North Glenwood survey is still in process. It's much more complicated, but SGM should have that done in the next month or two. And then Glenwood Park survey should be started and completed before winter hits. So we'll have all the information we need for everything, and we'll bring it all to you and Transportation Commission when we figure out what's going to get hit first. So that's all I have. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Matt. Questions from council? See none.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Really quick.
Pushing
You-
vigorously enough.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Counselor
Gotta get
Smith.
the motion there.
I'm embarrassed that I may have not been paying attention, but is the 6 and 24 devolution now complete?
That is complete. All the paperwork is done. The quick claim is done, and they paid us the money. We have the money. You'll see it in the budget, is actually in the street tax budget for next year is a $350,000 adder for revenue. So, and we have to spend it on streets. It's required.
And with 50% design work on the Wolfson West Midland roundabout, are you now able to project a construction timing?
Not timing. We need to see where it falls in the list of things now. We kind of fast tracked the design for it because RAFTA was coming in with that massive project,
Right.
which is going to change the traffic significantly quickly. And then they lost all of their funding. So they're moving through with the BRT station, at least the expansion of it, not the building. So basically we'll probably bring the plans up to 100%, and then we'll figure out traffic wise if we need to build it in 27, 28 or 29. Based on base traffic and what RAFT is doing.
Right.
And what we see from the 300 new apartments.
Those were the reasons I was asking. So even better answer than I got enough to ask. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Counselor Zelinski.
For clarification, they lost their funding or it's just frozen?
I don't know.
Okay,
I may have restated that incorrectly. Steve is going to correct me.
okay.
No, I believe that it's frozen right now,
Okay.
but I do think that they are hopeful that it'll get reinstated next year.
Okay.
That's what we heard.
That's my
Yeah,
negativity.
I just, yep, nope, yep, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? See none, thank you. Anybody from the public? Any comments, any updates? Online? No? See none, thank you. Item 10, Canyon Vista Affordable Housing Project Funding Request. I have a feeling Kevin's going to start this out, most
Yeah.
likely.
And I can cue this up really quick. We're going to hear from the developer here in a few minutes. There've been a couple of different pro formas or financial statements that you guys have seen about the Workforce Housing Fund and this project. So at some point, I'd like Yvette Gustad just to come up and give us, a quick update on, specifically the cash position in that
Mhm.
fund so that you guys are clear on what we've got available.
Sounds good, thank you.
Cool. Good evening.
Hi, Kevin.
Kevin Reyes. I'm the housing development manager here with the city. Thanks for the intro, Steve. So I'll provide just a little background for the folks who are a little bit newer to council. So the request tonight is coming for a new project that was approved by council back in April of this year. It was entitled in April 2025, and it's an 80 unit project, and the units are low income units. So these units are geared towards folks who make below 80% of the area median income. So what that means is there's a range there. Some of the units serve families all the way down to 20% AMI up to 80%. So these are pretty low income units that are being served. So if you are in the 20% category, you'll pay around $550 a month in rent. Depending on the unit size, and if you're a little higher income, up to 80%, you might pay closer to $1,300 depending on the number of bedrooms. So that's the kind of units we're talking about here. And the reason this project is even viable in Glenwood is not because of free market forces. This project has been awarded LIHTC credits, low income housing tax credits, which are pretty hard to come by. The LIHTC program is administered by CHAFA, the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, And for every 5 projects that they get seeking these credits, only 1 is awarded. So this project got that award. So it's a pretty big deal for the community. You know, they're moving forward with their project, their permits right now. But along the way, since, you know, between April and where we are now, they've encountered a funding shortfall of about $3 million, unanticipated funding shortfall. And they're here to ask for additional money from the city. We have provided already $1.57 million of 2C funds to the project. And they're here to ask for a little bit more to help sort of fill that gap. So the funding request is sort of coming in sort of 2 tranches. So you can kind of think of it in 2 different buckets, if you will. The first is $730,640 they're asking for, which would cover their impact fees that we would prescribe for the project and collect. So that's the first request, and they're asking not for a waiver of impact fees, but for us to use our 2C funds to backfill those impact fees and then pay the respective departments the money for those. The second fee, or the second you know, bucket of money they're asking for is a $785,000 grant from the 2C Workforce Housing Fund. So the total amount that they're asking for is $1,515,640 is the total amount they're asking for. The request was reviewed by the Workforce Housing Fund Advisory Board a couple weeks ago at their regular meeting. And there was a good amount of discussion amongst members. And the consensus was, you know, this is a project that is needed in the community. And, you know, if the developer fails to, you know, backfill their funding, and I'll let them speak a little bit more to this, there's a risk that they would lose their credits, and the credits would go back to Chafa and go to a different community, and the project would fall through. So that was sort of the discussion that the WFAB, Workforce Housing Fund Advisory Board, had. And so they recommended approval of all the funds, all $1.5 million. And they are basically, they understood that there's some budget constraints with that. So the way our budget is right now, and I included this as an exhibit, I think the exhibit B in the packet kind of shows a little bit what I'm talking about here, but the $730,000 that would be used to backfill fees would be paid out first, and that would not put us in any sort of budget shortfall. And then the remaining amount of $780,000 would be paid out closer to 2027 as the fund has time to sort of replenish. Following that meeting, staff met, and we concur with FAB's position, and we support the project. But we do have concerns around allocating funds more than 1 calendar year out. There are some constraints and challenges with Tabor. And so we talked about that at staff, and we want to find a way to help bridge the gap here because of the sort of the circumstances. So our thought and the way we are thinking about this as staff is to support the $730,000 for the impact fees, and then encourage the developer to go out and talk to other private entities or whatever, you know, philanthropic donations they can get to shore up their fund and find other ways of backfilling their shortfall, and then come back to us in 6 or 8 months with some more clarity about kind of what they might need to backfill the fund. So we know this is kind of a big ask, and we're not asking for a decision tonight. We want to give council members the space to kind of ruminate on this topic, but we thought we'd at least start it off and kind of see where it goes. The developer's here. He'll help answer some questions. He has a presentation that he can give, but I'm happy to answer any questions off the bat right here if that's helpful, or I can have him come up first.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks for the info. Made it a little clearer than what I read earlier today. So, any questions to staff at this point? We'll go with Councillor Townsley.
So when I looked at that, we've already got kind of down in your gray area of what we've said we were going to do with the initial ask of 785 in 2025 and then 785. So you're saying, okay, we would backfill the impact fees in 2025 How about the original 785 that's scheduled for 2025? When does that come into play and how?
So the 780, the two tranches of 785 that were previously
Already done.
approved, that's already baked into the budget.
So it's baked into the budget, but when would those monies be heading out to the developer?
You know, it's a good question. I think we're kind of waiting on them to ask for it.
Okay.
We haven't received any correspondence on, hey, we need this money. So I'm not
So
sure.
it's there, it's baked in, it's available, but we haven't,
Yeah.
we're not just, okay. going
Yeah.
forward
And
with that.
so Kevin, if it's okay with you, you're asking a very good question. I think Yvette might, and Brian, if you can put her spreadsheet up, if you haven't already. There are different financial statements for different purposes, right? What we're really talking about is the cash flow available in this particular fund over the next couple of years. So we wanted to just take a minute and make sure that everybody's clear on exactly what we have available before we start, really entertaining the request.
You're gonna have to blow that up.
As in magnifying, as not in literally.
Oh, yeah. So
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yvette Gustad, Finance Director. I know Steve sent this spreadsheet out earlier to you today. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it. This is looking specifically at the cash we have available. And you can see in 2025, the cash started at 1.8, then all of our commitments that we have to date. I don't know if you're all familiar with those, but these are what are committed for 2025, which would leave our ending balance at $905,000 at the end of 2025. And then going into 2026, again, this is what's committed. We did take down the projected revenue for 2025, assuming a 10% down for the rest of the year in the accommodations tax. And in 2026, we took it down another 15% because we just don't know what's going to happen. So we want to be as conservative as possible so we don't end up overspending this fund. So with that, the way we stand right now with already committed funds for 2026, that would leave the ending fund balance at $1.1 million at the end of 2026. So that's kind of what you have to play with at this point. That's what you have right now, that you could commit to. It could be more depending again on how the accommodations comes, but this is a conservative view because we want to be sure we can't legally overspend this fund. Right. And then in 2027, I just left it flat. And then this other revenue is a little bit of grant money that we're getting for the down payment assistance and half of Kevin's salary. We've got a grant that reimburses us for 50% of his personnel costs.
So this is the original 785 that's on here. The 730, if you did that and moves that forward at this backfill, that would flow into 2025, and then whatever else would come out of 2026.
Right. And if you can go down just a little bit more, the $1.1 million number that she's talking about is in the middle column, all the way on the bottom.
Okay.
So essentially, Counselor, what we're talking about is the $700,000 that we're talking about roughly in backfilling fees would essentially come from the $1,055,000 that's left at the end of the following year.
Yeah, so there is two 785s in there, one this year, one next year that we've already committed. Yeah.
Council Schachter, questions?
Thank you. It might be Kevin as well as Yvette. Two things, I'm looking at 2027 and I don't see rental assistance program at all. Is it going, it's not budgeted for anything. And I would question whether that's the most prudent projection unless 2C has decided to give up that program. Secondly, I guess I had a question about the housing manager expenses. Are those going to be fully funded by 2C in the future? Couple things that may be missing from these projections I'm wondering about.
Yeah, currently we're doing 50-50, half in the general fund, half in 2C. We have not yet decided to move those all 100% into the 2C fund.
Okay.
That is, something we will address in the budget. And then as far as the rental assistance, I think this was a pilot program originally approved. So this second year, you would have to commit to doing additional funds for those in subsequent years. Is that right? Because this original was just the pilot program and they hadn't approved going.
Yeah, we're not saying we wouldn't do it. We're just saying you guys would have to
Yeah.
approve it, and it's 2027, so we're just not there yet.
Okay,
That it?
that's it for me. Thank you for now.
Councilor Zelinski.
So I'm assuming that's the case for the down payment assistance program as well. Perfect. And then can you give me clarity on the 730, the fee? I see they're asked for a waiver of it's like a lot of fees. And so then I'm just not sure where that number came from. Guys, can you explain that to me?
The fee waiver is gonna be.
Because I'm
What
looking
they're
at the
asking
total
for.
fees, so I'm assuming that we're only waiving specific fees? Or is it the other fees?
So the total ask is about $1.5 million roughly. The fees that are impact fees that are charged in the project are about $730,000. So that's the fee component of this. The other component would just be a contribution to the project. That's how you get to $1.5 million. So there's only $730,000 of fees.
Say it again? So I'm trying to figure out, I'm where it's like their ask. And this is like, yeah. So the total, they're asking for considering the request for a waiver of basically 1.6 and change in fees. And so I'm wondering what fees we're being asked to waive that are only 730,000, because that's,
I can answer that.
thank you.
So yeah, it's confusing. We tried to distill it down a little bit in the memo. So the 700 and I think that you said one of the fees was around 800,000.
Yeah,
It
that's
was like
the
a use
use
tax.
fees.
Yeah, so they are exempt from that. We determined later on because of, I believe because of their tax status.
Okay,
So that one is sort of no longer on the table.
got it.
So I apologize. That's a little confusing. So the remaining balance would be 730,000.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Forgot that was still in there.
Okay. Yeah, for now.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay, we'll see none at this time. Would the applicant to care to come forward? With either a whole bunch of answers or the presentation or whatever you want to do. Excellent.
So my name is Kyle. I work for the developer Cohen Esri that's bringing this project. I'll try and be quick. I understand that the city's put a lot of time into this, and we appreciate all the effort the city's expended to give this project a shot at success. And I think even this week we're being asked follow-up questions. So we're trying to, on our side, to get this to the point that it will close, understanding that we don't have all the answers, and that's why we come to the city, and we can accept what the city's determination is and continue to work towards closing the project. Just for those who haven't, some of this has been presented in this forum before. We're Cohen Esri. We're a somewhat mid-sized developer. We focus in affordable housing. We work in different states. We have a very competent team with a lot of local consultants that are contributing to putting this project together. And just to try just brief history, when this project started in 2023, we got the site, the Glenwood Garden site, under contract and put together a 131 unit project. It was more density than the city wanted, and there was a conversation about the variance process of getting something like this approved, the parking that would be required. We submitted for tax credits. We were not awarded, and one of the primary comments or takeaways from Chaffa, who reviews these, was they didn't see enough city support. Understanding the difficulty of all that goes into getting something like this approved, and the parking sensitivities around parking, et cetera, density. So we were trying to decide whether or not to resubmit it in 2024, and something surprising happened, and that was the Inflation Reduction Act put 20-some billion into these different pools of money that were allocated to groups that did finance affordable housing. So we redesigned our project to have this large solar array that achieved what the EPA standard was for a zero emissions building, meaning 80% of our power was being generated on site. And it just worked out, and we resubmitted and were awarded. It also, another component was the fact that it was lower density, a higher parking ratio. We got city money contributed into the project too. All things considered, it was a very, Chaffer really liked the project. So it was awarded, but then came the hard part. We went into 2025 with some trepidation with the new administration in Washington, and some of the messaging coming from the new director of the EPA. So just out of starting at the beginning of this year, just step by step, it became clear that some of the programs we were relying on for funding were not just being changed, but they were ultimately going to be canceled. And that is what happened. And so seeing this happen in slow motion, we already had started the process with CDOH, which is the Colorado Department of Housing, and we're working towards a loan. And so when our funding went away, it started as a $6 million award with the understanding that we were going to produce match funds, and it might end up being 3 or 4 million. So when it went away, we did have a sizable gap to solve for. So starting kind of going into the summer, we did go back to CDOH for a greater sum than we originally thought we would need. We went out to the Colorado Health Foundation, and we did some rework with our solar ITC to produce more sources. And then we presented that just this past month to the advisory committee, and we tried to show sort of the chronology of our budget for transparency, to say, you know, we had these assumptions at our original application and 2C presentation back in 2024. And then in December of this year, where we were going into the new year, starting our design process in earnest. And so we brought a very large financing gap to the city. Some of this was comprised of our tax exemption, which we hadn't yet received a determination from the city that use tax would be waived. And just to say quickly, that's because we have the Garfield County Housing Authority will have the right of first refusal. So they will purchase this project at year 15 when the tax credit investor has received all of their tax benefits. They will exit the project. All of their equity, which at that point will be between $20 and $30 million, will go to the owner, who will purchase the property for the price of its debt. So it will be a very good economic situation for the housing authority when they take over the project in year 15. Just saying more. So after, the advisory board understood our situation, but also detailed what the city was doing, and certain limitations within the budget and other demands on the city's dollars. So we did have some success in continuing this, and just trying to tell the story here of the Division of Housing invited us that we could up our ask. We continue to work with our solar basis, which we think will go up even more as we're getting our final hard cost numbers back, our tax exemption. And so this was where this is the ask that those lower portions are what involve the city and the local sanitation department. We've requested a loan to cover a portion of their fees. And, so this is the same graphic showing our gap really goes down to nothing, right? It's 40 grand. So we just got our hard cost numbers back today. We don't have all of the information yet, but we know that we're about 8% above. And in our world, 8% is manageable. So just from our side, do see a way to close this in the coming weeks. But it's, we're throwing ourselves on the mercy of the city, asking if there's any way to, any more support that could be offered. Understanding that, we're working towards, one of these sources, is the Federal Home Loan Bank. It's the fourth one down. We did, the applications we put in, that one has the longest processing time. We won't really have a determination from them at the earliest December, probably January, February of next year. But that, and so if we're not able to close the gap now, we have the opportunity. A lot of the current partners that have letters of interest to us, all our pricing will expire. Our term sheets will expire, but this has happened before, and we will regroup probably later this year and start aiming for a March 2026 closing. And so that's sort of what we see as the likely outcome if we don't close this project by about, first week of November. And this was just, the fee waivers are 1.7. Again, I think this group is fairly informed on all this, but just to share too, the term sheet for the city in getting these dollars is that over 15 years, we can get a prorated portion of the city's loan forgiven if 20 of the units in the 80 unit development are occupied for that calendar year by people that work in Glenwood Springs. So this is what we do. We handle all sorts of set asides for different populations that we serve. This is works within our wheelhouse of compliance to find folks. And then our rents, we do like to. Kevin said as much. For a 2-bed, 2-bath, we're going to have solid surface countertops. We're going to have temperature control in every room. It's going to be as nice as the apartments that are across the way from us in the valley. Our rents are 2-bedroom for 950 square feet. It's $950 to $1,900 for a 2-bedroom. The rents across the way for the same apartment, I would hazard it's about the same apartment, are $32, $39 for the same type of apartment. So just our rent, our average rents are about $13.50. It's a weighted average across all these different apartment types. Some of these apartments are served by vouchers, so we do collect more rent, but it is paid through a housing voucher that's available through Garfield County. And just to say, these are the same type of buildings that Canyon Vista are what we build, and they're nice buildings. You wouldn't drive by or walk through it and think it's affordable. They're nice. These are our lobbies. This is our, So, and we do what we say, right? This is the rendering. This is the lobby. We build what we say we're going to build. And so these are our fitness centers, exact same type of income levels that Canyon Vista will have. And so, we have an experienced team. And so again, we're grateful for the opportunity to present. We can answer questions if there are more, and we'll certainly stay tuned as it goes forward and provide follow-ups if we have make any progress on alternative funding sources.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very informative. Any questions for the applicant? Councilor Smith.
Thank you. This may be a question for either of our presenters. Do I understand, actually, do I remember correctly from sitting through some workforce housing meetings, that the mechanics of this new proposal for the 785 number 2 is that it would be changed from what originally was a loan in the city's funding package to now a forgivable loan. Is that correct? That is essentially a grant, but it's called a forgivable loan for the sake of accounting purposes.
Yeah. So, just to back up a little bit. So the $1.57 million that council approved originally couple years ago for this. That was approved as a forgivable loan, and basically it's sort of a matter of semantics. The term forgivable loan is basically the same as a grant. We're not expecting to get the money back. The reason we call it a forgivable loan is it has some tax sort of benefits for the developer as far as when we actually transfer the money to them. The other reason we did it as a forgivable loan is because we had some conditions tied to the money that basically required them to set aside a certain number of units each year to prioritize those for folks who work in Glenwood Springs. So we had that total of 20 units basically need to be prioritized for people who actually have jobs in Glenwood. And if they are not filled by someone with a Glenwood job, then the loan is basically forgiven on a prorated basis. So each year you meet that requirement, we forgive a fraction of the loan until you've accomplished that all the way through the loan term, which is 30 years. So that was kind of a long answer, but the request tonight.
You answered my next question already, so you're doing great.
Oh, good. Okay. The recommendation from staff, well, I guess the money for the waivers, I think we wouldn't consider that necessarily a forgivable loan. That would be sort of the city paying itself back. But as far as the additional 780, if council wanted to consider that as well, you could do that as a forgivable loan or a grant. We've received some feedback from the finance team that it is challenging for the city's sort of annual budget auditing to have these sort of one-off loans on our books, and so we would encourage council to maybe steer away from the forgivable loan concept, and maybe if you were open to doing a grant, that would make things better from the city's perspective. Yeah, does that answer your question, Councilmember Smith?
It answers my first and second, and then the third, I think, follows logically just because you already introduced it. What becomes of that local worker expectation if it becomes a grant?
If the additional money that they're asking for is a grant, you're asking?
Right, you just outlined what you told me the other day, that
I see what you're saying,
there's accounting difficulties in administering a one-off forgivable loan. It would be simpler to simply give a grant. Do you then, if that happens, do you then lose your leverage for local employees prioritization?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think you would. I think we'd restructure the grant agreement a little bit, the same way that we have a letter agreement regarding the loan. Counsel for the developer has been exceedingly easy to work with on these issues, so I'm pretty confident we could get to the same place.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Councilor Townsley.
I'll just kind of pay off that question, just want to fade into that. So with the ask for additional money, are we also looking, and I think you might have even had it somewhere that you were open to looking at raising that number from 20 to a higher number if we're providing more money. Is that still the case, or are we looking at that, or?
Oh, that's certainly if the developer is still willing to factor that in to their future obligations, then that is certainly something that could be on the table. I'm not sure.
Is that something
to speak
you
to
could
that at all?
comment to? Yeah. I thought I saw that in there somewhere, that you were somewhat open to looking at revising that number.
Yeah, and I would defer to the attorneys how we keep. It's good to have an enforceable document. I think from the side of we manage all our own properties, so set-asides are very common, and they'll hold that unit until they have exhausted a tranche of candidates, and if they don't have anyone currently in line to be reviewed for it, they will then give it to someone else. Let's say, they won't keep it open. I apologize, I don't know it, but there are standards for set-asides where you hold the unit open for a certain period of time and then you rent it to the next eligible person. But from perspective of the loan, just hypothetically, not being forgiven, at year 15,
any sponsor loans or they used to call them enforcement loans. There's different language that's used of this type of loan. If it hasn't, compliance hasn't qualified the project to have the loan forgiven, then the loan is repayable. Typically happens at year 15, so that's kind of far out in the future. But in the refinancing, there is always a refinancing at year 15 because of the transfer of ownership. So all the loans are bundled into one refinancing loan. And at that time, the city would be paid any remaining portion of that loan that hadn't been evaporated or forgiven based on the occupancy by local Glenwood Springs employees.
And clarify too, and maybe I misread it, but I thought you were looking at, you put something in there that said you were going to change it from kind of setting aside units to looking at it almost at the end of the year and saying, okay, we had 18 people that were employees, in this year. And so we're short too. It's not like we're holding a couple apartments aside. I thought there was a different kind of accounting that you were looking at doing, with changing the terms on that. Is that not the case?
Well, I want to say there's some, the devil's in the details, because I do think I'm assuming that when you run it should technically be 12 months of tenancy to forgive that portion of, you have to have 20 people that have been there for 12 months of the year in order to qualify for that 1/15th reduction in the loan amount.
Okay.
So the accountants would have to work with property management at the annual audit to determine if the balance sheet should show that adjustment of a reduced liability. And they are used to doing this. And so that's why having the guidance of a clearly worded agreement is essential. And we work in these one site. There's the property management software does have all these, I'm calling it a set aside. It would work slightly differently, but they review all this when they go to audit to determine how they're hitting those marks. But I think I'm kind of talking outside of my area of knowledge.
I was going to say, let me follow up on that, because one of the interesting things we have, and so these folks work all over the country, and various state agencies have different interpretations of set asides versus the accounting system that we're trying to do here. Chaffa in Colorado doesn't believe that set asides for local priorities are acceptable. And so the way we have worked around that in Colorado pretty consistently is to we know that local workforce is going to be in these units more than likely, is to do an end of the year accounting to ensure that we saw the percentage of workforce that we expected to.
That's what I think I saw.
Yeah, and that's what you said. Yeah, and that's just purely because of the way Chaffa wants to address federal guidelines on priorities. And so, we have
that works better for us anyway.
Yeah, and it works better for us probably in the end in any case. So that's why it's set up that way.
Okay. A couple of questions if I can keep going here. You said that we're going to lose some of the solar funding. Does that have anything to do? Would you maintain the solar that you were planning on doing so we'd still see a project that was, almost totally self-sufficient that way, or did you drop any of that from your primary build and engineering?
Yep. The different sources, there were a few different sources that were related to the sustainability or the energy modeling of the project. The solar has survived all the changes that the EPA has gone through. And as long as we start construction of that system, I think it's June, mid-year 2026, all of the costs associated with that system. So it is included in the project. I would want to say that if it's the difference between having the solar and closing, the solar could go, but we don't see that happening as of today. Because most of the solar is a dollar for dollar match between LIHTC and the solar tax credit. So it was highly likely it remains in the system. So the other thing that's changed too is the mechanical systems for the building. In order to get that zero emissions compliance, we had to have the highest efficiency mechanical systems, air conditioner, heating, all that. So we have stepped that back. to what Chaffer requires, which is still well above code, 20 to 30% above the code required efficiency. And so it's called National Green Building Council. And so we still are compliant with that standard, which is a high elevated energy efficiency standard.
Okay, so that's still all staying at this point?
That stays.
Okay.
That stays, yeah.
Great. Last question is just a little bit off the track here, but you've mentioned you manage your own buildings in the project. So for the 15 years loans there, or 35 or 40, however long that is, how long are you, as a council, we're putting a lot of money into this, and how is there any way to ensure that the type of service that the people that are there are getting? I mean, do we even ask that question, or, the residents and whatnot? Just in kind of a Google search, I ran across some things that maybe, those sheets always have two sides to the story, but there were a lot of complaints on some of your other properties and whatnot. So I'm, just to throw it out there.
Yeah.
But, how do we know that what we're getting is really something that's great for the citizens?
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm aware of what you're referring to. I think we're a pretty good manager. We routinely have people come to us looking to bail themselves out of their management of properties, because in terms of we do this net promoter score for our properties. So we're very aware of our higher and lower performing properties. We meet, as an entire company meets once a year, and it's a 3-day fest of hammering out because we're a management company first. That's where we started in the 70s. The owner of the project, of our company was with it at the beginning. He's been employed there since 1977. So it's an obsession of our group, but it is a difficult thing to do well. When you bring especially in the first few years of a project, that can be a challenging time, because you're still got people who are there, but they're looking to freeload. I'm just telling you how it is. So I think among affordable housing development managers that we're one of the better ones, but I wouldn't disagree with you that we certainly have buildings that don't perform as well as others. But I see these folks, they do a lot, they put up with a lot. It's a tough population to manage, low-income folks, because they have a lot more, they have stressors that are unique to low-income people. And it's about that. Housing is really the dream of of affordable housing, is to take someone in a less stable situation and see them stabilize over time. This project will have supportive services. I'm forgetting the name of the organization. It's a local nonprofit. Most of our projects have this. We do have high needs people. They have episodes. And so part of what we're providing is social services through housing. And that is the best context to provide somebody support, because you can get them connected to their entitlements if they need health care, access to health care. If they need employment, vocational training. So it's a lot to keep a peaceable building when because you do have new people coming in that have different needs, especially in the first few years. So I feel like I'm going on a bit here. I want to represent that a lot goes into creating a peaceable building, and we have seen it happen, but it's always, trying to do it better and address those lower performing buildings.
Thanks. I mean, I think it's a good project. I like how you're doing it, but appreciate the answers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Zelinski.
Okay. I'm trying to remember back when we saw the site plans. Is there open space or like had a park playground area as part of the plan on site?
Yes, our open space is within city standards. It's to a square foot. So that was part of the site plan review process with planning. Specifically, when you enter the project.
I think I need to phrase my question different, because I don't mean just like open space, but I mean like play area for kids, or a like dog area for pets. If you have pets, I don't know if you allow that, but like, are those things part of the site plan?
They are. We do.
Okay.
We have a fairly sizable playground to the north. I would say we don't have open like green space. We have a playground that's larger than, I think, it's a large playground. We have a dog run. So those are two fenced areas that are just south of that, of a retaining wall, which is at the north end of the property.
Okay, that's what I thought I remembered.
Yeah, in terms of total area, it's pretty good, but we don't have just open grass space or, and I wish I could pull up the site plan because that's the best way to see it. Those renderings don't really show those spaces.
Is this time to ask questions of staff too?
Mhm.
Okay, so there's precedent, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's precedent for like waiving parkland fees if there is park-ish as part of the development, correct?
There's a required parkland dedication on site, and the city can accept a fee in lieu if you don't do it on site, which we sometimes do if there's, say, a regional park or a neighborhood park that
Got it.
we'd rather have the money to contribute to. So the assumption is that you build on site, and then there's an option to pay a fee.
So then the parkland dedication fee that we're considering has to be considered waiving. What is how is that different from what I'm thinking of?
I think it's exactly what you're thinking of. It's just that they did a portion of what they were required to do on site, and then a portion would be
Got it.
being.
So we would want it to be bigger and.
Right,
this-
and
okay.
it is, and this is where I miss having a ComDev director, to do the math for me. It's a fairly sizable dedication that we require, and so more often than not, projects do a combination.
Got it. And then this is also for probably Steve. I know that you said like they don't love it, but some of these building permit or plan review fees, are those easier to be forgivable? Or are they actually more problematic to be forgivable? I'm trying to remember how you've advised us in the past.
Well, in the city of Glenwood Springs, what is more difficult to forgive is anything that hits the general fund.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
parkland fees, for example, hit the capital projects fund.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Counselor Schachter.
Thank you. Sorry for a second here. Kyle, let me just understand one question. Right now, tonight, your perceived projected funding gap, is that 2.7 without any additional, or are the use taxes subtracted from that, or does that include your exemption from use tax and not receiving any money from this second round of requests from us and Western Sanitation District, West Sanitation?
So our path to closing is a best case scenario.
What's that?
It's a best case scenario.
Right?
Meaning if we have to get our hard costs to match what we're underwriting at, which it's within range of what we've done before. If we were to get a $300,000 loan from West Glenwood, all of the fee waivers we're requesting, and that additional $785,000 from the 2C fund, which would increase the city's total contribution to that around that 3 million.
Right.
I mean, this is how I was thinking about it like, so yes, then that we would have all our bases covered.
For now.
For now, while I think most of our assumptions are going to stay the same on the cost side. We have now to get our hard costs in line, but I'm not expecting,
Okay.
things can happen, but
So let me understand related to that. Has you asked for more, but has the West Sanitation District committed to you for 300 as opposed to the bigger ask? Or is that still up in the air?
so that is up in the air.
Okay. And second, just for clarification, the way it's proposed to us, in essence, you are not really asking for fee waivers. You are asking 2C to pay your fee waivers to our general fund and other funds. Is that correct? So the city, if 2C proceeded with your request, the city would not be short the funds. 2C would be short. Okay.
Right. We're not waiving any fees
Right.
in this scenario. They're being paid by 2C.
And I guess the other question, Kyle, before we'll get to comments later, is I've heard a couple things, not here on the dais, but also at the 2C meeting. And also from a Chaffa source. It sounds like maybe time is more critical than we're hearing. I'm not sure. Does this deal potentially die in loss of investors on or before November 1 if that funding gap exists? Potentially.
Oh, yeah, I mean, sure. We live in a world where things go wrong. And so if the city isn't able to grant this request, we have to find some other way to finance it. If we don't find some other way within the next month, it starts to look like it's going to be a next year problem to solve. And things, and beyond that, but yes.
If it becomes a next year problem to solve, what is the status of your tax credit award?
So we can ask for a carryover. I'd have to make sure that 4% can be carried over. Our state credit would obviously carry over. But right, yes. I think we can get it carried over to next year, but I'd have to ask. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think we would have until, it's not an end of year. It would be sometime next year that it would time out and they would go into the recycled bonds. They recycle credits, recycle bonds. I'd have to get you a date on when that would happen. I'm sorry, I don't know that right now.
That's all my questions for now, not comments.
Thank you. Counselor Schmall.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay.
There you go. Wrong one. There we go.
Kyle, other than the West Glenwood sanitation, are there other funding sources that you're counting on that are at risk? What would you give your percentage chance to close in 2025? I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Well, it's going to sound, I think if the city was able to fill that gap, I think the odds we'd close before the first week of November would be around 80 to 85%. If our other sources that we're showing, just to jump, the Department of Health is 100%. The CDOH funds, which is a lot, 2.8 million, that is probably around a 75, 80%. They go to committee at the end of September, maybe the first week of October. If we get a positive determination, then it becomes 90, 95%. CDOH is a funder in almost all our Colorado. We've had 4. They've been a funder in all of them. And so they have been very accurate in telling us, here's what you should go in asking. And so our 2.6 is what they told us. They first said 2.3, we kind of explained, they said, okay, 2.6. And then they came back and said, you could probably get 2.8. So it's a reflection of what they're telling us, this budget. We're not just, picking a number. And West Glenwood is very, I'd call it questionable. I mean, they're good people over there, but they have pressures and they serve a smaller district. They don't have the varied sources of capital. They rely on these things, but they're open to it. The credits, the bonds, those are all fixed. Those become formalized mid-September. Impact Development Fund, that's already committed. So our private lender this is all based on the debt service coverage. That's a very solid number based on all the other sources. So I think we're getting to closing. When we get to this time where we're closing, where we see a path to close within 6 weeks, it's a real path to close. Most of these assumptions are falling into place. And so I just want to, where we are now is not as perspective, as where we were 6 months ago.
Okay, and you said hard costs not established. You mean your actual construction costs, hard costs?
Yes. So
have you built in this region before?
We have not built in a mountain town prior to this project. We did go for pricing to 2 mountain GCs and have been talking to them for for some time and getting to know the process. But yeah, our 3 other projects are on the Front Range. So this would be our first, but
Are you confident that your mountain builders are experienced in this kind of construction?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they built ski resorts and they do it. Their book of business is a lot of different types of projects, but they built affordable in the mountains in Aspen. They've done a couple phases of projects there. So we know they know the product and the process. So.
Okay, so we could commit tonight and we'd probably be at about a 80% chance of having the project closed this year. Did I get that right?
Yes.
If
I
we
might
com-
put it higher, but I
if
think
we
80 is,
commit,
yeah.
if we commit to your ask tonight, we've got an 80%, 85% chance of having this project closed this year.
Yeah, if the city stepped up in this way, I think you'd see things would go into very, because we just got our hard costs. There's a lot of things coming at the same time, towards the end, but yep. It's 80% as of today. I think it would go up over the next few weeks.
Because if I got my numbers right, we're talking about $300,000 per the 20 units that we're looking for with the money that we're committing. That's big to me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Townsley, please.
A follow-up on Counselor Shackner's question. If for some reason this didn't go and you're looking at it again next year, just trying to redo it, do you have to go back to Chaffa and get approval again where you've got 5 coming in and they're approving one of them? Have you lost that, or does that maintain through, trying to refigure it out if you don't get your funding?
I'm not 100% understand, because
So,
we
but
say 5 come in. just help
You
with that.
you came in once and, you said, okay, we didn't get it. We need to have city funding. We need to have other sources of funding. You went back to Chaffa. They said, okay, out of all the projects we got, we like this one. We're going to approve it to go forward with like to credits. If for some reason, this didn't go this year, you're saying, okay, we would come back and relook at it next year. Do you go back to that process with them if you're trying to get them to say, yeah, we'll move forward with this project, or does that maintain when you go back? Have you lost that by not closing when you want to close? Is that, are you getting what I'm?
Yep. So Chaffa's process, they're not waiting for information from us. They will formalize the bond inducement, and so that will be a budgetary process on their side to put those into the marketplace, and those dollars will be available. So we won't need to go back to them until expiration of the time we have allotted. And it's not end of the year, it's sometime second quarter of next year.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, so we have that
second quarter
runway.
of next year.
Exactly. We have
Thank
the
you.
runway next year. We have our federal home loan bank application, which will come back. So there could be good news if we push next year. There can be bad news too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Counselor Shachter.
Oh, this should be brief, Kyle. Thank you. I see a lot of these were dated August 8th or so. Has there been any material adverse effect to you based on the special session that our legislature has had and some pretty significant cutbacks in the budget that you're aware of yet?
So are you talking the state?
Yes.
So the state it has affected us on other projects because they're not issuing any new rental vouchers for the foreseeable future. But the state credit at this point is already awarded. So my understanding, because we have projects at different places in the cycle, and so it doesn't affect a project that's already awarded. The state, it's unique that the federal government clawed back dollars that were already sitting in bank accounts with awarded agencies. That's unique. I don't expect that from the state of Colorado, but we're very aware that they are cutting back on their rental subsidies. And I think even the awards that we're seeing from we have received higher awards from CDOH in the past. We expected to get where this, I mean, I can tell you a year ago, that CDOH award would have been higher. So we're experiencing it.
Okay, great. Any other questions? I got just a quick one. I think it's for staff. Is there any implications using 2C money to pay back fees, building fees, development fees?
No, not other than subject to 2C fund availability, no.
So it's all good. There's no,
Yeah, that would be right in between the lines on what 2C was passed for.
on what it's supposed to be. Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kyle. Anybody from the public have any comments? Anybody online? No, we'll see none. Great. Close the public portion. We'll bring it back to council. Or I think we should go for an action. That's what we want to do. So, entertaining a motion. There you go. Councilor Schachter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to the 2C request regarding the housing project, I would move that we proceed with the fee waiver reimbursement from 2C at this point and delay any other grants at this point.
Okay, we have a motion. And Councilor Selinsky,
Yeah, I second that.
and a second. Everybody clear on the motion? I think it sounded pretty clear to me, so, okay, just making sure. All right, any discussion? Are you starting, Sumner?
You don't have to call me, you can call on others.
Too late, you're called on, go.
All right, this is, I don't know if Hobson's choice is the right term. This is extremely difficult, I believe. I'm not saying how I'll vote at this point, but there, to me, some real critical questions that we're all wrestling with, and I am. How much do we help any developer, regardless of how high a priority the project is? This is probably a one-off option, at least for the foreseeable future in terms of how tax credits and financing go. If we want 80 units that are low income, this will probably might be our best and only opportunity for the foreseeable future. I don't believe we should ever waive fees anymore, and we've got a backdoor way to do that. So that's okay. I also worry a little bit about how we're hurting 2C because we're not spending in arrears. We're not even spending in a current projection, and the projections are modest. And 2C has done a terrific job in terms of a variety of programs. And if I'm looking at the budget going forward, if projections aren't outstanding, there's going to be pressure on some of those other programs, whether it be good deeds or rental housing or our own mortgage assistance. So that's part of my reason, at least for the motion and the discussion. And 2C has a great broad portfolio right now. I mean, I don't know any other town that has done low AMI, mobile home park, employer rental, habitat, good deeds, rent own, and also now a tax credit program. It's a pretty broad portfolio, but it's still young. And we don't even have an ongoing, as I said in another meeting, we don't have an ongoing evaluation of success. Our first metric of success is do we have programs and can we spend the money? But how well they're being run, what the burden is on our department, we don't know yet. So I understand the benefit of the project. I don't know where I'm leaning exactly, but I wonder, these are the things I've been wrestling with that are very difficult that have been put on our plate. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Councilor Selinsky.
Yeah, I'm in a similar place. That's why I was asking all the questions about, kind of our fees. I hate to strain our 2C budget because there is so much good being done and, to have it all in one basket. But similarly, I don't see this happening again in the near future. the way that the project came back to us the second time with the 80 units and the site plan, I remember being just like really impressed and thinking that that was something that was going to be an asset to the community and an enhancement in that side of town. And so I want to find a way to make this happen. It's my understanding, like with the recommendation that the fee waiver reimbursement be approved with the understanding that there was going to be other pursuits of funding and then come back. This is another question, but what does that look like at this point if that's the direction that we take? Because we're only looking at funding less than 50% of the ask. How does that impact the long-term viability of what is being proposed? I don't know if that's another question for you, but because we have something like, I couldn't ask the question until we had something on the, something to vote on. So now that we're talking about voting that, I want to know, like, is this a wasted vote because it's not going to move the needle, or?
Well, my understanding is, and what we've heard from planning and development is they're tasking us with, look, we're giving you this support. We're asking you again, go out and see what matching funds you can come back with. So we kind of have our marching orders to keep working on this. I wouldn't say today's the last day that we can get a determination that allows us to make it happen, close the deal. It's probably sometime and that's what they directed us, that there's another meeting in the late September.
2 weeks.
And that we could, and not to take more of your time, but it's just the thought that maybe we'll make progress there. We get the seriousness of all this, that's $1 into one program is not $1 another. So,
Thank you. That's helpful because, I'm willing to give my time to look at this again in 2 weeks if that's what it takes, as long as, we're being thoughtful along the way. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Counselor Weimer.
I think I have a question now that we have something to kind of chew on here with the motion. A question for staff, I think probably for Steve and Carl. The money now that is being earmarked to offset these fees, it's really just an earmark for now until and unless the applicant is being charged the fees, right? And so what is the trigger for those fees? I think I know, but we need to say it out loud. And should that trigger never happen, right? The thing falls apart or something else happens, it gets delayed. Does this money just remain? So I guess if it falls apart, the money would come back to 2C. If it gets delayed, or if it, this now becomes a 26 thing or 27, does the money then stay earmarked and frozen to pay those fees when they do happen? So can you just help us understand a little bit more about what the trigger is for the fees, Steve?
So I think the trigger for the fees is when the fees are actually due and charged.
Yes.
If the fees never actually get due and are charged, then those fees would remain in the fund balance of the 2C fund.
And what is the trigger for the fees to become due?
Typically building permit.
It's not until a request for building permit or issuance of building permit?
Typically issuance of building permit, most of those fees would be due.
Okay.
So we know we have a live project when we write a check.
Okay. So it's not when the deal closes, it's not when the funding package is complete and secured, but it's actually
and keeping in mind that that's being transferred internally, those funds as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But building permit is the typical trigger in this case.
Then obviously, should something happen negatively to the project, those fees are never spent, right? They stay, the earmark comes off and they get freed up inside of 2C for something else. If the project were to be delayed, let's just be, scenario, a 2-year delay, right? It feels like it would need to be in good faith that those funds remain earmarked, right? Is that how that would sort of need to be set up?
Well, yes, but Tabor doesn't allow us to appropriate funds more than 1 year forward.
Okay.
So kind of by definition, you would have the opportunity to essentially defund that project.
So in 12 months' time, this would come back up for some renewal,
Fiscal year, right?
fiscal year. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Townsley.
When I look at this project and look at some of the other things that have been on the docket for 2C funds, I like this better. I mean, just to say, I think it's a better project. I think it really meets a need for the community with 2C, kind of how it was really originally planned. I think it avoids the aspect that I feel we have in some of our other projects of picking winners and losers. Here, we're giving this particular person $200,000 for down payment. Here, we're gonna, we're taking a very small either group of people or person and saying, here's money for you. And I don't feel like this project's like that. So I'm much more in favor of this. As I look at the numbers and Mayor, maybe you can help me with this a little bit since, amendments, counter amendments, that sort of thing is new to me, but I would be in favor of probably pretty close to a full ask on this. The Workforce Housing Board has looked at this. That's their recommendation. When you look at the numbers that just gave us, for 25 and 26, 26 still includes money for down payment assistance. It includes money for rental assistance programs. So those are funded out through next year. So I would be in favor of giving them as much money as possible to make this work, to close that gap, and would offer that as a second amendment or
A friendly amendment to Councillor Schachter.
a friendly, I don't know if it's a friendly amendment, but I
It's
would.
friendly.
Okay. Because I think it's important that this to me is something that, we're going to have these units for 40 years. And, the rents that we're coming up for here are really, if there's a guy that's a waiter and he wants to own his own place or something like that, and he makes 35,000, this gives him a chance to stay here in the community versus taking, really large sums of money and doing some other things with it that, to me anyway, are not as helpful.
Now, I just want to clarify quick. I think if you say you want to fund it fully, that means we're going in the red.
We will.
So we'd have to take some money off the funding request to stay in the black, right? And I don't know by how much that is. On the top of my head, I don't know. Somebody would have to give us, I think, or we come up with wording that will limit it at, that's all we got.
We would be in the red under those circumstances only if we missed our revenue forecast, right? The numbers Yvette just gave you from a revenue perspective had us going down 10% between now and the end of 2025, and then an additional 15% in 2026. So we've dampened those forecasts when we
Okay.
just showed you guys the cash flow. So if we hit our
And-
forecast, then we wouldn't be under.
We would not be in the red if we hit, so we could fund fully and be not, whatever, overextend the fund, I guess was okay. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. So I'm gonna move the amendment over.
May I ask Kevin a question first?
Sure. Why not? Oh, but hang on, let's say Townsley red, Schachter green. There you go.
Kevin, I was at the first meeting. I missed the special meeting. Did 2C contemplate a deficit? And if they didn't or did they say what gives if there is a deficit?
So I gave them a projection based on previous revenue that we received in the 2C fund, which is around $1.7 million a year. So I made representations that we would not be in the red. The forecast that Yvette has come up with is a little bit more conservative, and so I didn't have that contemplated at the time, so it didn't come up at the meeting.
Thank you.
Which is not Workforce Housing Fund's job.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think they did the right thing by, looking at the information that was in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick one.
Can you remind me what was the rationalization for asking them to pursue other funding sources before we committed the second bucket beyond the fees?
I think the idea there is if they're able to find other sources, then that sort of saves us money, right?
Understood. Okay. I just was making sure that was the only concern.
I think there were some ideas thrown out. If they can come up with a match, then we could maybe try to find a way to match that. I think there's some creative ways of thinking about it, but it all came down to trying to preserve our own fund.
Got it.
Thank you. So before we keep going, there is an amendment sitting there somewhere. I'd like to know what you want to do. Go.
I think at this point, I would rather vote on the motion. And if it gets turned down, then a new motion with other funding options could come up. If it passes, it doesn't preclude another ask in the next couple months as well. So that's how I feel. And I agree about the importance of the project, but I'm not willing at this point to amend for full funding.
Okay, fair. Counselor Schmall.
That changes my comments.
Does that mean no comment at this
No
time?
comment, no comment.
Okay, back to Counselor Townsley, one more time.
I don't know if we do horse trading or not, but if you look at Yvette's numbers here, would you at least look at funding where we're at through the end of 2026 instead of going 730? Would you go 730 and take a motion to amend that and maybe up it to $1 million, the 730, and then the difference, committing to that portion of it that doesn't take us beyond 2026?
Are you saying go to $1 million with a net 270
Exactly.
above the fee waiver?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to play with the numbers at this point. I'd rather
Okay.
leave the motion as and then
Okay.
come up with a hard motion if we choose. Thank you.
Okay.
Is this the part where I play parliamentarian?
No, not yet, but pretty quick, pretty soon.
I'm giving
help
you
me out where you
options.
can.
I'm gonna do one more quick whip. Any other questions or comments to the current motion on the table? And Counselor Zelinski will
I'm
do it.
reassured by the fact that they can come back in 2 weeks and ask. They've got 2 weeks to pursue their funding sources. I think that in 2 weeks, if we get another ask, I think that there's a real chance that we will be able to find some support for something like that. But I think I agree with Kevin, the interest of preserving that fund makes sense. Not to say that we wouldn't say yes in 2 weeks, if that is the question.
Okay.
Because it sounds like from what I heard is like this portion here keeps the conversation going. And then we might get another chance to see what is needed from us again.
Okay, thank you. Oops, Counselor Smith.
Thank you. For one thing, I appreciate Councilman Schafter's sticking to his motion because it almost has my interest, and going bigger would have lost my interest. I have my misgivings about tonight's proposal in its original form, and it come in several contexts, several forms, starting with the fact that I just don't see that the city should be the backstop in the face of the federal government reneging on a promise. I just don't like the principle of that. The other one, another one is just my standing default bias against building more rental housing at all, whether affordable or otherwise. We have in general, but especially with what's going on above Lowe's, an overabundance of rental housing. And what we need is for opportunities for people to buy a place to live and dig in and become a part of this community. That's a separate bias. It's different from this discussion. It's not part of the proposal, but that bias affects my looking at, I look more harshly or more carefully at proposals to build new rentals. By coincidence, we just heard last week from 60 people in a community where they already own their own homes. They already live there, looking for funding to help them continue to own their homes and to then be able to buy the land underneath. And we said no, because we don't have money. And to then 2 weeks later, look at a proposal that adds up to $3 million to build new rental housing for people we haven't met yet, while we turn down people who are already there, 15 of those households with family members who do work in Glenwood Springs, just sets me off a bit. But it really, to the specifics of this proposal, the 3 million is what really gets me. And as several other council members have said, the potential for lost opportunities to forego future investments in preferably assistance to people to buy homes, but assistance in any form, whether it's the employer rental partnership, the down payment assistance, all the lists that Councilman Schechter cited. I don't want to lose those opportunities to spend that kind of money and to spend it, frankly, speculatively into a second and third year, hoping the money's there, but making commitments that are going to end up being brick and mortar. Just feels fiscally slippery to me. I just don't like that fiscal aspect as well as the big number aspect of it. The Workforce Housing Fund Authority has made what to me is a really helpful observation. They have started to look at the projects that they consider and on which they offer recommendations in a per unit cost. So they found that assistance to Mountain Mobile turned out to be $24,000 per unit, which they consider to be a pretty good deal. This one's coming in somewhere 28,000, even under this funding increase. So that's kind of compelling, that they think that this is a good deal, that you're getting something for relatively reasonable amount of money. On the other hand, once again, we could have given the folks that came last week $25,000 per unit on the 15 where we have local workers living. It would cost us $375,000, and we secure houses that actually already exist. So I do feel a little better about the current motion to commit funds to cover things internally, the fee coverage. I just cannot swallow going the extra 785 up to a full 3 million or even 2.5, depending on how the accounting all comes back out. I would feel even better if the motion were amended or that we have a companion motion that ups that commitment to local worker units. This is the Workforce Housing Fund. To me, one of the priority purposes of that fund is to help people who work here live here, and help people who live here afford to work here. So 20 out of 80 doesn't cut it for me. If we stick with the 730,000 fee support proposal currently on the table and up that local worker, it's not a set aside, whatever the proper term is, local worker units to half of the units to 40, then I think I could get on board. Otherwise, I'm still very skeptical about this much new money. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councilor Townsend.
Two things. I did have a question for Kevin, but the people that came in last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever and came in, I would say that they're in the county. It's not within the city. That was really not within our purview of saying this is where we want to take funds. So to me, it's not a piece of this. And the other piece that I think that I really like this project is this is something that's not available. And I applaud the part about owner occupying and people living and digging into the community. But there's people here that, obviously can't do it from a purchase standpoint. Not when you look at this number of units. And I would think that we might even end up with more than 20, just by the nature of the beast here. And would also, I would agree with you. I'd love to see that number go up to 25 or 30 or something like that. I don't know that half is as much, but I would like to see that number go up. But when you look at those rents and you look at the people that could afford to live there, that are a part of the community, that just, they're really not in play on some of these other programs. You know, even with a $100,000 down payment, they're not going to come up with a $400,000 loan to buy a house or things like that. So I think there's still a part of our community that this serves, that nothing else that I've seen us put forward since any of these funds have become available meets that need. A $3,000 apartment for one bedroom, or, you know, $4,000 for two bedrooms, that's not helping the people that this is going to help. It's an entirely different part of our community. And so I would really like to see this go forward somehow. Going back to Councilor Zelinski's piece, if we said the 7:30 now, we said, let's do that. And then we said, see what you can do for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and then come back to us, then I would be more in support of the way that Councilor Schachner's got it set up. Is that something that works for everybody?
That's certainly something that, if council wanted to go that direction, that's definitely a path that we could take. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Schachter. One more time.
Thank you. Of course, I'll be gone in 2 weeks, so you can have your way. But no, but I also understood, and if it's misunderstood, Kyle, let me know, that part of this process is show us some progress. And no, you didn't get everything from West Sanitation, and you may not get everything tonight if this passes from us, but you are going back to the table with more commitments that may lead you to come back and ask us again, or may lead to other sources. So I don't mind putting a little bit more pressure on the developer, because I don't hear it as a drop the project September 15th deadline. So there is room here, and we can share the responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Oh. Councilor Smith.
I'll give it a try. I will move to amend the current motion to adjust the local worker unit allowance, or whatever the proper terminology is, to 40 units.
Councilor Schachter.
I like the concept, Counselor Smith. I have two reservations. Again, I still want to keep this clean for two reasons. Number one, I know we are stretching fair housing rules and pressure in terms of selection of renters, and this is not a forgivable loan like the other conditions. And because this fee waivers, I would rather see some motion like that with legal guidance come if we opted to do an additional tranche of funding. It might be cleaner.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? No? Oh, Councilor Townsley.
I would agree with that, that if we came back and they said, okay, we missed out on some other funding, we weren't able to make it like this, then let's know, and maybe staff and legal could let us know how we do that in the best way. If that comes back up to where they come back and say, no, we need more help, then you guys would have an answer for us. It's like, okay, this is the way, you know, if you're going to come up with more money, here's what you can ask for. Here's how we would do it. Here's how we would set it up. I think that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Councilor Smith?
I appreciate Councilman Schachter's 2 points. One, that maybe this is not the right juncture or the right pot of money on which to attach local allocation conditions. My second thought and final thought is kind of also one that Councilman Schachter mentioned. It's a little bit more intangible. How do we up that pressure? How do we be sure that the developers and their financial advisors really work at this before coming back again, whether it's in 2 weeks or otherwise, and not just bide their time hoping the city will just do it and come back and ask for more money? I don't know how to put that into a motion, so I'll put it into a little speech that I really, really want to see that they if they come back, they have made a really good effort and ideally have some success in gaining additional private investors or additional program contributions or matching programs, and not just let the clock pass and come back and ask for more money. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, we'll see none. All right, let's see if I can extend this discussion any further. I don't have much. I wasn't a fan of your motion to start, but now that I heard all the discussion and comments that came from everyone, I think I can move forward with the 7:30 and have a discussion later on for the 785 for more units. I think that is an important part of what we will be talking about. I think that's it. I really do. Yeah, I thought there was more, but no, I think that's it. Oh, I guess the only other thing, and I know you want to keep it clean, but the only other thing we could do is build in a match. But then it gets messy again, and you're messing with the numbers, and you don't want to do that, and I get that. So that's fine. So the motion at this point is to approve 7:30 for the fee waivers, and I agreed this was not the time to add units to it, or set aside units. So with that, I think
The current motion is proceed with fee waiver, reimbursement, and delay any other grants from 2C.
at this point, that's the motion and a second. All right, so with that, I will call for the question.
Yes, Counselor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. Yes, Counselor Weimer. No, Counselor Schmall. No, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-2.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So you get half at this point. I wish you best of luck to find some other money. And this sounds kind of like, hey, if you can't find anything, come back to pop-up. But it's like, I know. We really, really want you to try hard to go wherever you can go. I do too, and this is nothing personal. I hope we don't see you again and you're fully funded and we can move forward because this is a great project. And we thank you for your tenacity and your patience with all this. So, thank you.
So we will try to impress upon community development what our efforts have been so that you don't have to trust us that we're making the effort. We'll be, I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Quick comment from the motion over here.
I
Councilor
think,
Stark.
and Kevin, I hope you will convey this, that this is not a slap at the 2C commission. It is very difficult on the dais to hear a fully vetted recommendation from a commission we respect and then not go full-hearted with it. But there's a bigger picture and we haven't turned it away indefinitely. So I hope you'll convey our appreciation. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just one added thought. I mean, this request is unique because of the situation and getting at what you're saying. It came at us very quickly. And so we gave them the best information we had at the time. So that's where they made their decision. And today we had more information than we had 2 weeks ago with the Workforce Housing Commission. So that kind of leads you to this. So I don't think there was any contradiction at all.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all. We'll call for a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Best of luck. The second half of tonight's city council meeting. Moving into item 11 tonight, it is the Southbridge toll. Steve Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can tee this one up. The Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, has asked us to make a decision at this point as we go forward towards Southbridge to either let them know that we intend to put a toll on that bridge or we don't. To this point, we've gone kind of on a dual track and they have said that that's no longer acceptable. We need to make a decision. So tonight's discussion is about whether or not to put a toll on Southbridge.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet introduction. Any questions to, I guess, Matt's here, Carl's here, and Steve's here from council? And just maybe to double up on Steve, we're going to discuss whether we should move forward with a toll or without a toll, and not much else, if any way possible. Let's stick to that task at hand tonight, please. Councilor Schachter.
Thank you. Steve was very specific. He said on the bridge. We mentioned it last meeting and I'd wonder maybe Carl can address this. What would preclude us from doing a toll, since we own the road, anywhere, say between the 4-mile roundabout and the existing road, right where the road ends on the south end of town? What would preclude that and telling them, no, we're not putting a toll on the bridge?
I don't think anything would, if you were telling them you're not putting a toll outside of the project area. I do think that you probably want to talk to somebody other than your attorney about practicalities of doing that in terms of northbound traffic or westbound traffic, however you want to think about that, because they will have already crossed the bridge by the time they would hit the toll. So I mean, you could do it as long as it's not inside project boundaries, but I don't know how it would function other than one direction.
I don't think.
I just don't.
Well, I'm just wondering what you call northbound or northwestbound. At some point, it's a path to nowhere, whether it's on the bridge or on the road. Anybody who's passing that route that we don't want to be a bypass is ultimately going to pay the toll. Is that not correct?
I mean, I guess I'd have to look to Matt to walk through the mechanics and then what happens in the neighborhood.
Not cutting through Cardiff. It'd have to be before Cardiff, Glen. It could be where we do the green stuff. I don't know. I'm asking.
Maybe the better question to ask council is council allowed to put a toll anywhere they want to in the city of Glenwood Springs on a street?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the question.
And what's
The
the
location of a toll can be determined later by the benefit of that location, possibly.
And what's the answer to that question?
TBD.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, the answer to the question is under state statute, the city clearly has the authority on any road that the city owns, including the Southbridge project, setting aside the feds for a minute and how they feel about it. Any city street, the city has the authority under state statute to impose a toll.
And
So I guess my point is maybe we can look later if that city's will to find a location that may
makes sense.
accommodate the conversation at a later date.
And just one quick follow-up, if I may. You've talked to various vendors. Do they care about the location? Okay. That's all the question.
I'll answer that verbally. No, they don't seem to care about the location. No.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Zelinski.
Why are we being asked to decide right now to choose a path?
And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been in the meetings, but my understanding is that FHWA, prior to the current administration, and things change with every administration, prior to the current administration suggested we do a dual track of an EIS amendment or EA amendment with both tolling and non-tolling in it, which is something that's been done on the Front Range regularly. The current administration, DOT and FHWA, want a single path selected. I think they have made it clear that their preference is no toll. Or that or rather that the process for tolling would be that it would need to be reviewed at a couple of different levels, that it would not need to be reviewed if we go no toll, right?
And what is the concern if it's being reviewed at multiple levels?
I think
Is it timeline?
it is a timeline. I think there is a concern that it could need to work its way up to the secretary's desk for a final decision. That will take time. If that decision is that they're not going to allow the toll and we have to start back over at the beginning again, that we will not have sufficient time to fully encumber the federal funds by September of 2026, which is the requirement that we have to pull down the large grant.
And then we would lose the funding source.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Small.
So I have yet to see the demonstration that an emergency egress is necessary through the south end of town. I've heard people claim that it is, but I don't buy it. I don't see that that's necessary. If an emergency egress is not part of what this is needed out there, then the only thing this is a bypass. If this is going to become a bypass, which I don't see any other answer to, then the only way of controlling it is from tolling. So I support going forward with a tolled bridge. I do not support going forward without tolling.
Counselor Smith.
Thank you. At least some of us on the city council like the idea of a toll because of the effect we think it would have on commuter patterns. And certainly a lot of people I talk to in the southwest part of town have that feeling. Do we have any data on that feeling? Does a toll like this really redirect people to take a different route? Do we have information from the HOV lanes on I-70 or the use of E470 or any other examples to tell us whether tolls work?
No. I guess I'll go back to the proper question is, are you allowed to toll in town? And the answer is yes. So if you ponder that answer, you can accommodate for what you're attempting to do on other sections of road. You're trying to keep people from the south side of town, right? You're trying to keep people from going on the south side of town, correct?
Through drivers, yes.
You don't want this to be a bypass, right?
Yeah.
You pick where you want to put it because people are going to drive down Midland. You're going to tell them where you want them to leave Midland Avenue based on if you want to put a toll someplace.
Oh, and that's really my question. It could work. It could vary in its location, but would it have the effect of actually changing people's habits?
I don't know the direct answer to that, but if it was significant enough, you think it would have an effect on changing people's habits.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Schachter.
One other question for Steve or Carl. Whether we toll or don't toll, whether we put speed limits, can those be changed or eliminated at any time by any future council?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we choose not to toll South Bridge now, we won't have the option to add a toll later.
Yeah,
On the
no, and
bridge.
on the bridge.
On
I'm
the bridge.
sorry, I was, and
No.
to clarify, thank you, Steve, to clarify,
wasn't my-
outside of the project boundaries, you can do, it's your streets, you're not limited by whatever federal agreement you have, so.
My question wasn't about the bridges, was no matter what we decide, whether we toll somewhere else or put speed limits at 15 miles an hour, that can be changed by any council in any subsequent time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Townsley.
I think I, tend to agree with Councilor Small that we're looking at a bypass here. The one question I haven't had asked is there any other means that we've looked at to control traffic flow on this road besides a toll? And are there any that anybody's thought of that, okay, we have not come to surface that we could look at before we make this vote?
The speed of traffic would be fairly simple because we now have speed cameras that we could locate on.
I mean, just actually trying to keep
The
people-
volume of traffic can be controlled by most people try to get from point A to point B as fast as they can while they're still moving, right? They like to move. So it may take them longer to get from one spot to another, but as long as they're moving, they like that. So there are options to put in deterrence on Midland Avenue from 27th Street all the way through the bridge project, speed humps, raised walks, stop signs, traffic signals at major intersections, which we do have one that we probably could use one at, those kinds of things. So if it takes people longer to take the trip from 27th Street across the bridge than it is from 27th Street through the McDonald's, you know, on Highway 82 South Glen over there, that's the direction most likely they're going to go. Because they will stop moving depending on how many deterrents you put along that pathway. Okay. So, but human nature is, once again, I think Councilor Small said, tell you this is, you don't know until you build it. And then you may have to add things to it to accommodate, to make it a more and more deterrent prone or quantity area kind of thing to slow people down.
In which case I would guess we'd hear from the people who were sitting there in traffic going, you spent $80 million on this and I have to drive 5 miles an hour.
And once again, I think that there is a report out there showing that there is a certain amount of fire danger and those kinds of fun things and how many people would die up in the 4-mile corridor that can be read that we can produce. But this is an emergency access out for that area. That's the main reason that the federal government gave us the money for it. So whether people use it or not, I guess I don't care as long as it's available for that means.
Okay. So I would, if we could, I would love to have you guys forward that because that's one piece of it I haven't seen yet. So if we could get a copy of that, that would be fantastic. And then my other is just a quick question on making sure that I understand the funding of this correctly, because that would play into a vote here tonight. The $26 million in work that CDOT is going to do on, or that's going to get done, that's part of the engineering plan and study and funds. So that's coming, that $26 million is coming out of whatever the total pie is. And then CDOT is producing another 5 million or some piece that they would come forward and look at on that. But it's not like they're going to do $26 million worth of work on top of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to confirm that's correct.
Yeah, the CDOT portion that we estimate to be 26 million is included in the
It's
project.
included
also.
in this process. Thank you.
Councilor Small.
Yeah, so just for everybody's clarification, when somebody says the project limits, that's one end of the project to the other. Everything that's in the plans that are going to bid is the project limits. So it's all the way back on whatever the road parallel to and adjacent to the airport to the other side of Highway 82 and the frontage roads that are being improved over there. Those are the project limits.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, we'll see none. Thanks. Councilor Schachter.
Could you, Matt and Carl, could you just, let's not check, could you elaborate us a little bit to the extent you can about what led to the belief that this will be extended beyond the deadline and also even the rationale, why it matters to FHWA, whether it's told or not, given that they've approved, basically given approval for the project in theory?
Attempt to answer that?
Yeah. To the extent you can answer it.
Well, we have new FHWA people. The original ones that had suggested the dual path, you know, that was just their suggestion at that moment. We didn't ask question or anything about it. That was the suggestion. The new group of FHWA people are looking at exactly what we submitted for the grant. Polling was never mentioned in the grant. So they're looking at this as a new process. It's a new thing for them that's outside of the grant. They're not saying we can't do it. They're not saying, they're just asking questions. They sent us a whole list of questions that answer these questions. But one of the comments made during the process was this is outside of the normal, it's outside of the grant, it's outside of the original EA. They're like just questioning if this will have to go through a process that people haven't thought about this as of yet. It may end up on the highest desk available. That desk may say, no, I don't really like that. And then we would start over again. So it was more of a, we're concerned about the timing aspect of this whole entire thing because it was never part of the original grant application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions to staff? No? We'll see none. Great. Anybody from the public like to speak up? Comment? Please state your name and whether you live in city limits, and you have 3 minutes.
John Banks, within city limits. I was interested in this issue, but I did not intend to speak tonight. But what I've heard has sort of compelled me to. There's something disturbing about what's happening. We have a bypass, but we don't dare call it that. It's an emergency exit. That's what we have to say to get it through. We don't want to toll it. We're just going to toll right next to it. We want it to be available, but we're trying to fix it so people can't use it or won't use it. When we're doing so many things to like sneak around the self-evident realities here, I wonder, is that proper? Is that right? Are we doing the right thing? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? See none. We'll close the public portion. Back to the council for an action. Entertaining a motion. Councilor Schmall.
I move to direct city to proceed with the South Bridge project, including tolling.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second. You? Councilor Weimer.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Schachter.
Like our prior meeting, this one is very convoluted. I am not convinced. I like the idea that we discussed last meeting is let others decide whether this proceeds or not us. While passing this motion may put a kink in it, we're not the ones saying no. It might ultimately be FHWA or somebody else. So I get that. I will say, I know there's a ton of history and a ton of work that's gone in this project. I'm still not convinced that it's in the best interest of all of Glenwood. I say that for a couple reasons. One, the cost, even though it's subsidized, is huge, but we've had reluctant partners, those who benefit as much or more than we do via Southbridge. We also have other options, Prem Ranch, Dry Park, and for a guesstimated $10 million, the old Cardiff Bridge could probably be made a gated but accessible safety outlet. So, and the safety numbers over the years have been not question the safety, but the numbers themselves have been questioned. And I also wrestle with, okay, a ton of work and effort has gone in this for many years, but one wise man told me that really what matters the most is not what's gone into it in the past, but what happens in the future. So how much money, effort, staff time would we be committing when we go forward this for the next 2 or 3 years? And without the toll, what kind of maintenance costs would we have? So I'm not a hard supporter of Southbridge. I would look for a path forward probably in support of the motion, I haven't voted yet, that would put it back on somebody else's plate and not necessarily ours, even though maybe it's passive aggressive, but that's what I'm contemplating right now.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Zelinski.
So I wasn't at DC when you made the pitch. There was a pitch made at the federal level to get this grant. And the pitch was about safety. It was an evacuation route. We never made the pitch, right? To make a bypass. Can you give some data? Because I know, like we've got 3 counselors that weren't on city council. I wasn't there. I didn't hear the pitch. I just remember the result.
Yeah.
Does something move the needle?
Yeah. I mean, so if you go back to when this all started, and I tell the story every time, but I think it's relevant to understand where it started, which was really, I think, on the courthouse steps between Don Vanderhoof and Scott McGinnis, when Scott was a seated congressman and Don Vanderhoof was our mayor. And we couldn't evacuate South Glenwood, right? And Don said, we need to build another way out. And there is no doubt in my mind that's when this project started, and it was about being able to evacuate people from South Glenwood and from the 4-mile corridor. We went to DC, and unfortunately I'm the only one in the room that went to all of those trips. We went to DC, I think 4 years in a row, and pitched this project. And we always pitched this project as based on the data of lives lost coming out of the 4-mile corridor in South Glenwood if we were having to evacuate. And so I can't give you the numbers off the top of my head, but that was a major component of the analysis every single time. Now, do other agencies view this corridor differently? Absolutely, just as everybody does. But from the standpoint of what we went back and pitched and what we talked to our congressional leadership, DOT staff about, it was always focused on the safety of Glenwood residents and residents in the 4-mile corridor and their ability to exit safely in a major event, most often a fire. And while there are a couple of other ways out, neither one of those have carrying capacity and the safety margins that a new route would. That would be Prim Ranch or Dry Park. And obviously everybody who's driven Dry Park, depending on, the weather and the timing, one person slides off that thing and then you just have a whole bunch of people stuck in Dry Park. Prim Ranch, while it is technically an emergency exit, it's also one that just doesn't really have much in the way of carrying capacity. So that was always the pitch. Now I'm not the scientist. I didn't write the study. I didn't do the analysis, but I know what we went back and what we talked about. And I happened to be here when Don had that conversation. So.
What, Counselor Smith?
I appreciate Councilman Schmal putting this before us to actually get to a decision, and Councilor Weimer for helping start the conversation. June 30 of this year, city staff convened a heavily advertised and well-attended public workshop about the South Bridge proposal at Soapers Elementary School. 165 people showed up. 150 or so actually from Southwest Glenwood neighborhoods or nearby. Staff did a really good job of providing background history, explanation of the design work that they've done so far, components that they have put into their current staff-driven design to discourage through traffic on the route connected to a new bridge. City engineer was also very, very effective at managing very diverse points of view and widely variable tempers. So it was an impressive show. I deliberately didn't speak at the meeting, but instead watched and listened to people, those who chose to speak and ask questions, and then kind of watched the room for head nods and amens and to kind of see how each speaker had a following or didn't. And it was very, very informative. It wasn't particularly scientific, but those really gave me some pretty clear and I think roughly measurable impressions of the views in the room, and I think by extension, views in the neighborhoods in that part of town. By my rough calculations from those observations, along with conversations I had walking all of those neighborhoods in February or March as part of a campaign time, the room is evenly split among those who support and those who do not support Southbridge at all. 30% kind of outright were supportive of it, 20% tentatively supportive, 50% just opposed it. But there was seemingly universal support for prioritizing some sort of emergency access and emergency ingress, getting fire trucks in, getting people out for that end of town. There was widespread agreement on that. Not necessarily that the bridge was the answer to do that, but that kind of service, that kind of improvement was needed in some form. So again, similar to comments we've had here, the room, and I think by extension, the neighborhoods are saying, yeah, make us safer. Maybe look at additional variations for doing that. Public safety was really important for those there. It struck me that an obvious majority of the people in the room, including all but one speaker, even and including those who supported the bridge, all wanted to specifically be sure it was not a bypass, that it was not a new highway, that it was not used as a commuter route. There was one speaker who said, yeah, I want it to be a bypass. It's a great way to serve the region. But nobody amened or nodded on that one. And everybody else said, this should not be a bypass. People out there cherish the atmosphere around their homes, around the neighborhood school, a nearby church, the playgrounds associated with those. The specter of shifting that atmosphere into a highway frontage was palpable. People were really clear about not wanting that to happen. Fittingly, staff recognized the need to keep Midland Airport primarily local streets. And again, they talked about speed humps and speed limits and a traffic circle at one of the Carter Glen entrances, features that they already had in their plan that they thought would help with discouraging through travel. And people locally, when I talked to them in February, and people locally that night took some comfort from that, but they weren't totally convinced. Then they heard about the toll and the atmosphere kind of changed. Proposed as an imaginative solution by the city's own engineers, it was finally a tool that people could kind of see tangibly as a way to improve this, provide the emergency access, maybe even make more skeptics feel better about the bridge at all because it had this effective change so that they could have that safety without losing the quality of life in their neighborhoods. So in light of all that, just to catch up a little bit more recent, kind of concurring with that point of view, on Tuesday, the city's Transportation Commission voted unanimously to endorse including a toll as part of Southbridge design and evaluation processes. So they discussed it at some length and joined in as well, reflecting again some of the comments that we heard that night at Cypress Elementary. So in light of all that, and even recognizing that some of my neighbors still don't want this bridge at all, I'm inclined to support this particular motion because at least it keeps this important new, I think, effective tool, the toll, in play. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Townsley.
The other thing that I think Counselor Small's motion does is that if we've sold this to the people higher up, that this is a fire road and this is a fire safety piece, we're saying we're looking for avenues that help us make this the case versus going, okay, we're calling it this, but we're really doing it for this. So for that reason, I would also support this because I think as we present it up the chain, and it may go up there and it may not go anywhere, but you can go back to these people and you can say, this is we're serious about this. We don't want this to be a bypass. So I would also support it.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll see none. Well, let's see if I can sum up everything I want to say, and I'm not sure it's worth it because I think some minds have changed and we may go in a different direction, which is fine. But going back to why I went to DC to advocate for the money, I even bought a suit. We went to DC because we had emergency evacuation meetings with our fire departments, our fire district, police department. We had workshops. They identified that an exit on the south end is absolutely integral to the safety of not just South Glenwood, but even the Midland Corridor, even all the way down to 8th Street. Even downtown could benefit from an egress on the south end. It also doubles up as an access, like Steve said, for fire trucks to get to in need when necessary. So to me, this bridge has been and will be always an important part of Glenwood's infrastructure because of that reason. And when we sat in the Federal Highway, actually it was the DOT, the Department of Transportation, and we talked about fire safety and talked about what's going on with our drought conditions and all that. It was not if anything should ever happen, we should have this bridge. It's when it will happen, we will have this bridge. And this bridge simply will save lives. Call it what you will. Call it a bypass. Has the Transportation Commission even heard what it means to move forward with or without a toll? Not sure that plays in. If it turns into a bypass 30 years from now, is that the end of the world? We're building a piece of infrastructure today at a certain rate that may serve us very well in the future. It will not only save lives, but it also may in the future actually keep this town sane from less traffic and traffic moving through town at a decent pace to get the people through. Because traffic will not get less. It will not decrease. It's not possible. There is room west for them to build. They will build out because they want more people just like we do that can be their workforce, that can generate sales taxes, and so on. As long as we don't have economic development out west, people will drive through Glenwood, period. And our streets, believe it or not, are great for all of us who live here to get to our houses. But that's not why they're built. Streets and roads are here to be driven on by every single one of them, every single person that comes through town, lives in town, wants to get through town, wants to visit any of us. So I appreciate you cherishing your neighborhood and your home and the setup you have. But it's a shame when it goes up in flames and you can't get out. So to me, this bridge is absolutely essential. So I will definitely push forward to build this bridge and move forward without a toll. The toll came late. The toll to me is, oh, another tool we could use. Let's see if it works. Feds don't like it. Administration changed. Our head count here changed. Did we wait too long? Should we have pushed it harder? Should we have pushed it through when the last administration was there just to move forward? Yes. We still don't even know where the bid comes in at, And that might be the nail in the coffin. But at this point, let's move this bridge forward and see where that number comes in at. And let's not preclude us from knowing that, hey, we can or we cannot build a bridge. Again, essential part of the emergency evacuation plan. And intentionally, this bridge was designed and built and put in that place to serve that purpose. And therefore, I will not support your motion, and I hope that we can at least get the bid process and see where we're at with this entire project. Councilor Schachter.
Thank you. In spite of my waffling, I want to say, I believe we are creating a bypass by default. We already have one from 27th to 8th Street. You look, I mean, I don't care how many tables we have there, that's backed up all the time. It is a bypass. Does that outweigh the future, as our mayor said? Does that outweigh our ability, should this get approved, to do everything we can to reroute and mitigate the flow of traffic, even maybe a toll somewhere else, but tables? And I'm looking at our newish emergency preparedness and planning plan, including our A-line breaks, emergency operations, traffic incident management, the ability to control the highways. But the last section, Southbridge. I didn't write this, and I don't think Matt wrote it. The Southbridge project will provide a critical second access between State Highway 82 and the western side of the Roaring Fork River in the south Glenwood Springs area. The new route will improve emergency evacuation and emergency service access. The Southbridge project is at a 90% design level. Cost-benefit analysis modeling using fire rates of spread from fires that occurred in the state during 2020 has shown that having the bridge in place substantially reduces loss of life in the southern corridor of the city. I would think, given this summer, if I asked all our neighbors, what do you fear most, more traffic on Midland or a fire? I suspect they would say fire. In spite of my waffling up here, I would probably take the course of least resistance and see if this can go forward, but we're not the ones that kill it. Thank you.
Councilor Weimer.
I also am actually not in favor of the motion. I wanted to have the discussion. And it was the motion presented, and it really, a second really doesn't matter. I think at the core of this is about public safety. And we have to do everything we can to continue to push forward toward that, toward that goal. And the subtext here is that attaching a toll to attaching a new condition to this project that has been approved. Actually doesn't matter that it's a toll. It's just it's a new the administration sees it as a change essentially in our application for the grant. Moving forward with a change to this grant, and I'm going to say it that way, right? The subtext there is that it has a much greater chance of either failing or not being approved in time for us to take advantage of that opportunity. And we're all adults. We've all been around the block, and we've all been in situations where the rules change around us, right? Whether it's stickball or it's city council, sometimes the rules change. And to be an adult and to be a professional and to render yourself continually serious about a particular piece, you have to stay the course in light of that change, right? Because we are serious and we are not waffling, and we are focused on what's important. And if you are really wrapped up about the toll, I want to go back to a council meeting about a year ago. And it was really centered around us trying to get the Dane County on board because they weren't on board. They're still not on board. And Jonathan Godis, bless his heart, came up with the idea of a toll to stick it to the county. That's what it was. It had nothing to do with traffic calming. It had nothing to do with the prevention of a bypass. It was a cudgel for us to tax county folks so that the commissioners could take some additional level of heat and perhaps come around and support the project. That's what this was. That was the intent of the tax, of the toll. I glommed onto it right away because I thought it was a pretty cool and deviously brilliant move by Godis. He had a lot of deviously brilliant ideas. And so that was the origin of this toll. And so it was never about trying to divert, subvert, or change traffic flows. It's now a very easy way for us to think about it in that context. But you know, if you're really kind of set on the purity and the spirit of the toll, that was the spirit. So in some of our heads, maybe that spirit has changed, and that's fine. So I am moving for the path of least resistance within the context that has changed in front of us, so that we can stay pure and committed to task number one, which is public safety. Let's get through this. Things are going to continue to change. We're going to have to continue to make changes and divert our direction. And we'll take this one step at a time. And ultimately, I think we just owe it to ourselves and to the town to remain true and pure, which is to continue to focus about public safety and fire evacuation. God forbid. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Zelinski.
So thank you for all of that. You know, I was going to speak to something similar. This is my literal backyard. I've kind of just waited and watched and listened. I'm not excited about the thought of more traffic behind my house. But the reality is you asked if this is what's best for Glenwood Springs. We're all talking about this in hindsight, but the reality is like the reason for this is it is a very real, like undisputable fact that if we don't have an evacuation route at the south end of town, as has been said multiple times, I've seen it, people will die. And I just cannot in good conscience advocate for something that keeps my backyard more peaceful, but could potentially cause the loss of life. I don't think that that is right. I don't think that's what I've been tasked to do. Understanding that this could be the deal killer on a grand scheme doesn't feel like a good move to proceed. I loved the idea of a toll because of the things that I've already said. It's just not probably going to be what we thought it was going to be. The bridge is a whole different topic. That route out of town is a whole different topic. I can build a bigger wall and ignore the traffic, but I can't live with people in our community not being safe.
Thank you. Counselor Schmall.
So I appreciate everybody's passion and concern that people will die. People are going to die if we have a bad fire. It doesn't have anything to do with egress at South Bridge. Since the study was done, since the original "we can't get people out" conversation on the courthouse steps, the firefighting knowledge has increased tremendously through experience. We've made the improvements to Midland Avenue. We've made the improvements to the Sunlight Bridge. We have an additional access to I-70 at Midland that we didn't have back at the time of those fires. And we have the 27th and 82 improvements that we didn't have back at the time of those fires. We're talking about $70 million How many other improvements can we make for a fraction of that money to Prim Ranch Road as an emergency egress, to Dry Park as an emergency egress, not to mention that you can continue going up over Sunlight Mountain to get people out if we need to. This is crazy. And using the excuse that people will die is an emotional response to a practical problem.
Counselor Selinsky.
I'm not emotional. It's pretty rational. And I sat here and I listened to experts in fire safety. We have first responders that know more about this than I do. And it was a pretty compelling argument. I have to put my faith in their expertise. Yeah, all those things that you said are very true. We also have more people. We have more people in all these areas. I think that, you know, what outweighs the other, I don't know that that's worthy of debate tonight. I am going to, like I said, lean on the expertise of those who are tasked with keeping us safe. And this has been deemed necessary.
Counselor Schmal.
One more point. The roads that are done now are not designed to be a bypass. If we complete this bridge, unless we have the tolling to control the volume of traffic that's going over it, it's going to become a bypass, and all of those additional costs are going to have to be incurred all the way down Midland Avenue through all of the other intersections to accommodate the volume of traffic that a bypass is going to produce. Tolling is the only way to offset that consequence.
Okay, any more comments? If we're all clear, the motion is to move forward with tolling. With that, I'll call the question.
We're missing one.
No.
I don't want to be bullied.
You just are.
Yes, Counselor Townsley. No, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. No, Mayor Dem. Yes, no, Counselor Weimer. Yes, Counselor Schmal. Yes, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 4-3.
Okay. That concludes this discussion. Let's move into council comments. Counselor Townsley. No. Counselor Schmal. No. Counselor Selinsky.
Okay, so River Commission sent out a doodle poll to all of council about a float. I am asking for a commitment from at least 2 representatives of this council to join them on an informational river float. There are dates on there. I literally, unfortunately, cannot make any of the dates. So can I get all of you to commit to looking? It should have come from Jim Hardcastle. I think the subject is 2025 River Commission Annual Float Scheduling Feedback. So if you can look for that. As a personal favor to me, I told them I would ask and get a commitment from at least 2 city councilors. I think it's important. Then the other thing is this came up. The Roaring Fork River is at historic lows right now, like 30-year lows or something like that. And so the question that was raised was about, we have water rights in Rudai. Does the city have a formal policy about releasing water? It's dual purpose. It would protect for recreation. It also helps cool the temperatures, which would protect the fish population. And the question was asked and nobody knew. Do we have a formal policy about making that request of Rudai for water release?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll be your water geek for a minute. So the Rudai water that we have, about 500 acre feet, as part of our augmentation plan that supports the 8th Street pump station when the river is on call, and if for some reason we can't divert out of Grizzly and No Name. Historically, usually the river district coordinates some kind of releases from Route I along those lines, and we have in the past cooperated in that. It's very difficult without more of a regional effort and understanding of what we're doing and how much to make those sort of unilaterally. While we could call for a release of some of our water, we would be
That's not
doing
the
it
purpose.
blind. Yeah, we'd just be doing it blind. We wouldn't have any idea if it, timing of other releases or impacts. Certainly we can reach out. I will tell you, the River District personnel are pretty wrapped up in getting ready for this CWCB hearing coming
Right.
up. But we certainly could reach out to them and ask if they had any thoughts about doing a late season release. And because I know that I actually think the last time, which is probably around 2018, I think was a particularly dry year too. And I think we did some late season releases out of Route I. And we may have in 2002 as well.
So I got the sense that maybe what they were looking for more was some sort of a formal policy, like if this became a regular occurrence, at what level would we make that request? Is there is that what that's for? Is that, would that be a
Yeah.
reasonable request?
I mean, technically it wouldn't be a one of the uses that we have for the water, right?
And
which is fine.
All I need to say.
Which is fine. I mean, I do think that we could, work towards, bring on, it's beyond, I think, the skill set of staff or the legal team to decide what that flow regime should look like. But certainly if it's something that council wanted to plug some money into the 2026 budget to develop some engineering around that, I think we'd be happy to do that.
You stepped up. Do you have something to add?
I didn't know if you would have a full answer on that one, so I'm going to let him go with it.
Got it. All right. Cool. That's all I have.
Cool. Thank you. Counselor Smith.
I just sent out the email.
Counselor Smith.
Every few days, I find myself incredibly impressed with this organization. And it just happened again. I'm just almost startled by the professionalism and the high level of skills in the city staff, the technical staff, management, and the clear-spoken sense of continuity and leadership from the administrative staff and the management staff. And this particular collection of a mere 7 people having the diversity of perspectives and experience and being willing to bring those into a thoughtful civil discussion on any topic, but on one that's hard, one that's can be contentious, especially so, is a bit of a miracle. To watch people behave like this in a professional, thoughtful, listening manner makes me a little choked up about being a little bitty part of it. So thank you all for all those things. Appreciate it.
Counselor Schachter. Counselor Weimer.
I'm good.
Counselor Schmall.
I do want to add that I recognize that this vote tonight pushes Southbridge into uncharted territory. And I know that a lot of people have put a lot of work into seeing that Southbridge go forward. And I hope that there's no pain taken in that if it should become unsuccessful because of that. At some point, you just got to recognize your sunk cost.
Okay, city manager.
I'm good.
Carl.
I'm good.
Correspondence, nothing. Social event, I'm passing.
Where are I going?
Is you mad?
Yeah, I'm mad. Extremely mad. So that's fine. I need to breathe. I call this, a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.